I accidentally hit a Foundation establishment disciple while crossing the tribulation, and as a result, I was falsely accused by the daughter of the heavenly fate of being the culprit who harmed fellow disciples. If you cannot prove your innocence, then I will give up my cultivation and die to atone for the whole sect. Facing the elders' favoritism and the moral coercion of the junior disciples, I raised my hand and slapped the junior sister's words back. I am only 18 years old, with a cultivation level that has reached the peak of true immortal. How dare you, a mere Foundation establishment stage ant, slander me? Senior brother, I know your cultivation is extraordinary, but how could you kill someone within the sect? And you even killed my beloved fellow Taoist, Senior brother Yi, Guchinga. Even though you are the senior brother of my Daoji palace, you have gone too far in this matter. A young man in a white long shirt looked at the weeping woman and shouted angrily towards the center of the hall. With these words spoken, the disciples around couldn't help but be angry and look towards the young man in the field. Guchinga, even though you have extraordinary strength, how could you harm fellow disciple Yi Shixiang in the sect? Such actions are no different from those of the demonic cultivators. I just flipped through a few pages of the novel, and you really brought it to me? Guchinga, I respect you as my senior brother. This is the chance for you to make amends. Do you really want to go all the way without turning back? The handsome young man standing next to Feng Bao looked at me calmly and questioned again. Silence. At this moment, the law enforcement hall master, who had been silent with closed eyes, opened his eyes and looked at me. Fortunately, not everyone in this text is a fool. There are also a few sensible people. Guchinga, you have harmed your fellow disciples. You are sentenced to guard the sea town in the Northern Territory for 100 years. You didn't even ask any questions, and you directly pronounced the sentence? I crossed over here. Can I still be bullied by a Foundation building stage cultivator? Guchinga, are you going to resist the punishment of the sect? Looking at me still indifferent, the Lord of the Law Enforcement Hall spoke harshly. Lord, let's put aside the punishment of the sect for now. Disciple asks you, what have I done wrong? Guchinga, as the main palace master, I consider you as a disciple of the palace master, so I will go easy on you. Are you willing to persist in your wrongdoings and fall into the demonic path? The main hall master of the law enforcement hall shouted sternly. Senior brother, the sect has already given you a light punishment. Why don't you quickly admit your guilt and accept the penalty? Senior brother, do you really not understand the painstaking efforts the sect has made for you? As the voice of the law enforcement hall's hall master fell, the disciples of the Daoji Palace in the main hall advised me one after another. Senior brother, you harmed senior brother Yi. Bauer doesn't ask you to trade your life for his. Bauer just seeks justice, to let senior brother Yi rest in peace. Now you won't even admit your mistake. Feng Bao looked at me and cried, Guchinga, is your waist really that strong? In your eyes, what are we, these senior brothers, worth? Seeing my unrepentant attitude, the handsome young man next to Feng Bao couldn't help but be furious, pointing at me and questioning. The surname Yi intruded into my thunder robbery range. What does it have to do with me? What wrong did I, Guchinga, do? Listening to the angry curses and advice of the people around me, I immediately used my words to question everyone. Senior brother, is it really so difficult for you to apologize? I, Feng Bao, may speak lightly, but I believe senior brother Yi will not die in vain. I beg the sect to do justice for senior brother Yi and for me. Feng Bao. With that, Feng Bao collapsed to the ground once again, crying uncontrollably. Seeing this situation, the handsome young man beside me felt his heart bleeding. Then the young man drew the long sword from his waist and pointed it at me. Guchinga, others may fear you, but I, Long Ocean, do not. Upon hearing this, I was immediately stunned. I just said, why does this young man in front of me look so familiar? It turns out to be the crooked-mouthed Dragon King Long Outyin, junior brother Long. You just asked me, what are you junior brothers and sisters in my eyes? Well, I can tell you now that you are all like ants in my eyes. I, Guchinga, broke through the realm of true immortals in 10 years, and my talent in cultivation is unparalleled throughout history. If I weren't the senior brother of the Daoji Palace, do you think you would have the qualifications to see me? After that, I flicked my fingers lightly, and a terrifying force rushed towards Long Ocean. Long Ocean's whole body immediately smashed into the pillar behind him. Senior brother, spare senior brother Long. If you are unwilling to admit your mistake, I won't force you to. After all, I, Feng Bao, am just an ordinary Foundation establishment disciple. How can I compare to senior brother? Feng Bao stood up from the ground and said pitifully. With these words, the anger of the disciples of the Daoji Palace was ignited again. Senior brother, even if you break through to the realm of true immortal, you cannot take action against senior brother Long in the Hall of Enforcement. Senior brother, you say we are ants? Then what is Guchinga to you? Someone who betrays their master and destroys their ancestors? Or a villain of the demonic path? Ha ha ha. Facing the anger of the disciples around me, I burst into laughter. I, a peak true immortal, have lowered myself to reason with you ants, only to be labeled as a villain by you all. With that said, I coldly surveyed the crowd, finally fixing my gaze on Fengbao. You said I wouldn't apologize. Then I, Guqinga, will apologize now. Listen to me carefully, it's not just the fault of those surnamed Ji, it's also the fault of those surnamed Long and Feng. Are you satisfied now? When the words fell, Fengbao was stunned on the spot, then hesitantly looked at me. Senior brother, did you just mention someone with the surname Long and the surname Feng? Are they also disciples of the Daoji Palace? That's right, they're all Dao Polarity Palace disciples, Guqinga said coldly. Wow. Although it was impossible to see Guqinga's expression, those morose words, it caused all of the Dao Polarity Palace disciples present to burst into an uproar and suck in a breath of cool air. Even the gaze of the law enforcement hall master on the side looking at Guqinga. There is also an anger that cannot be suppressed. Originally, it was thought that Guqinga had only unintentionally killed a Dao Polarity Palace disciple. I didn't realize that. The disciples of the Dao Polarity Palace, he had actually killed a full 3 of them. This kind of practice is simply the proper style of the devil's way. It's worse than the devil's men. On Guqinga, just how many more are secrets that the clan doesn't know about? Xianyu Dao Pol Palace. What in the world had cultivated a thing? Eldest brother, you've let us down too much. Are you still the eldest brother we know? You went so far as to slaughter the clan's masters and brothers, and you said it so lightly. You're simply a disgrace to the Dao Extreme Palace. Murder pays. Murder pays. Listening to the remarks of these Dao Polarity Palace disciples around him, Fengbauer's eyes were also filled with disappointment and annoyance when she looked at Guqinga. She had originally thought that, keep asking the eldest brother to apologize and make amends, if he had gone too far. Guqinga was, after all, the Daodaiji Palace's eldest senior brother. In hindsight, she didn't do too much, at all. How does such a person deserve to serve as the Daodaiji Palace's Grand Master? The one you killed, surnamed Dragon. Who is the one named Yi? Fengbauer spoke up and asked. Having heard what was said, those surrounding Dao Polarity Palace disciples were all looking towards Guqinga. The surnames of Dragon and Phoenix were extremely rare in Daoji Palace. She didn't remember that there were any other senior brothers in the clan with the surname of Dragon or Phoenix. They were more interested in knowing why Guqinga had killed those fellow disciples. Who is it? You will soon find out. Guqinga smiled indifferently. Buzz. As its voice fell, a terrifying black smoke cleansed away from Guqinga's body. Those black smokes were the manifestation of extreme killing intent. Endless killing intent enveloped the Grand Hall, converging into a killing shadow. Some of them were demonic path giants, and some were powerful demonic beasts from the Dragon and Phoenix clans. These killing shadows, so dense that they were almost appalling. It was all about Guqinga's experiences in the battles she had fought for Daoji Palace over the years. To know, a strong killing intent will infest the heart of the Tao, but over the years, as the Devil Dao's heavenly pride came forth, the Dragon and Phoenix clans were foolish. Guqinga practically spent her time killing again and again. As the Grand Master of the Dao Polarity Palace, every time the sect issued a mission, it was led by Guqinga herself. There were even many other times when Guqinga had completed a single mission. Just immediately rushed to the next mission location. For the sake of the disciples of the Daoji Palace, there could be fewer deaths and injuries in the battle with the Devil's Way and the Dragon and Phoenix clans. He simply didn't have time to remove the killing intent that had been fostered within him. This one breaks through to serious injury. It's also because killing intent breeds heart demons, and if it weren't for Guqinga's powerful strength, he would have died under the thunderbolt long ago. And these brothers and sisters who were so well cared for by him in the old days, it was indeed because of the death of a Foundation Establishment stage disciple who had intruded into the place of his thunderbolt and was unforgiving to Guqinga. Feeling the murderous intent that filled the hall to the extreme, Guqinga's gaze grew colder and colder. With a wave of her wrist, Guqinga clamped down on Fengbauer's neck in full view of everyone. Eldest brother, you're hurting me. Feeling the intense murderous intent around him, and the fingers that were pinching him. A flash of panic surged in Fengbauer's eyes. Guqinga, let go of senior sister Bauer. If you have anything, come at me. What kind of big brother are you to bully a senior sister? Seeing this scene, Long Outyen, who was stepped on by Guqinga, also forced himself to endure the injuries on his body. Yelling angrily at Guqinga. What a lickspittle for Fengbauer. At this point in time, you still want to save the girl? Guqinga didn't bother to respond to Long Ao Tian's words. Looking around at these Dao Polarity Palace disciples, don't you all want to know who the person I killed was? Watch it, but don't blink. Ka chow. A sound of bones breaking instantly rang out. At this moment, Everyone's gazes were amidst extreme shock and dismay. The scene before us is surreal. In front of them, in plain sight, Guchinga directly pinched Feng Bao's neck. Was this still the gentle, spring-like eldest brother they knew? How can you be so cruel? The last name of Feng. It turned out to be Feng Bao. What about the last name dragon? Come to think of it, everyone's gaze toward Guchinga was filled with indescribable fear and anger. Can't it be that he doesn't know enough to kill one and wants to kill a second? Finally clean. With Feng Bao pinched to death, Guchinga felt an unprecedented scenario. Meanwhile, an undetectable heavenly phoenix shadow also flew out from Feng Bao's body. It was forcefully plundered by Guchinga. As the heavenly phoenix shadow disappeared into his body, Guchinga was able to feel the Dao injuries that she had incurred due to the lightning tribulation. It's recovering fast. Not only had the Dao injuries recovered, Guchinga's cultivation qualifications had also been sublimated once again. Not to be outdone by the heroine's gold finger. This heavenly phoenix origin was definitely the greatest opportunity of the Dragon Phoenix continent. Subsequently, Guchinga turned her gaze to Long Aotian at her feet. No, don't, eldest brother. I was wrong. Noticing Guchinga's cold gaze, Long Aotian also came back to his senses from the shock he had just experienced. Fearfully, she looked at Guchinga. Wrong? Oh, since you know you're wrong, you have to pay for your behavior. Guchinga laughed morosely. At this moment, Guchinga's faceless mask seemed to be synonymous with evil. Against the backdrop of Guchinga's morose laughter, looking at the faceless mask, everyone was creeped out. Now that it's out there, Guchinga naturally wouldn't leave herself open to trouble. Keep Long Aotian and wait until Long Aotian rises up and seeks revenge on himself? Guchinga isn't that stupid. Besides, after he had once beheaded a dragon race transition stage powerhouse, he had obtained a dragon and phoenix continent's pungent secret. That is, after the bloodline of the true dragon and the heavenly phoenix clan melded, his qualifications would surpass the ancient and modern, possessing the qualifications to break through the Dao ancestor and step into the third step. This was also the reason why Feng Bao was ultimately able to reign over the world. The original body didn't know Feng Bao and Long Aotian's qualifications, but today's Guchinga knew. Letting Long Aotian go? Dreaming. 004, as long as I don't listen. Long Aotian is an ordinary disciple. Guchinga. This is the law enforcement hall. To strike at the law enforcement hall. Do you still regard me? The law enforcement hall master. In your eyes? Guchinga was just about to strike. Behind him came the voice of the law enforcement hall master. Boom. Guchinga decisively kicked out. With one step, Long Aotian transformed into a blood mist and floated above the great hall. Guchinga knew what the law enforcement hall was going to say. He doesn't want to hear it. It wasn't like Guchinga didn't know that villains died from talking too much. He had traveled over. Would he still be intimidated by a second-generation zone? And, Long Aotian's identity is hidden in Daoji Palace. No one in the entire clan knew about him being the son of Vice Palace Master Long Tang. It's also consistent with the protagonist group's identity. Hide your identity and show your sainthood in front of people. As long as Guchinga didn't give the law enforcement hall master the chance to announce Long Aotian's true identity, then what he killed was an ordinary disciple of the Dao Polarity Palace. At that time, even if Vice Palace Master Long Tang appears, what can he do to me? He, Long Aotian, is the son of the Vice Palace Master. Guchinga. It was still the Palace Master's personal disciple, and in all reason the Master would be on his side. With the death of Long Aotian, Guchinga also felt the slightest hint of dragon bloodline power enveloping the hall. A silk thread of dragon bloodline floated above the great hall. It was swept into Guchinga's body and instantly refined. As these dragon bloodlines enter the body, in an instant, it was fused with the heavenly phoenix origin. An incomparably majestic aura was cleansing Guchinga's body uncontrollably. As this aura filled her body, the Dao injuries Guchinga had suffered due to the thunderbolt. It was actually a miraculous and quick recovery. In the meantime, Guchinga's strength was also at the early true immortal realm, slowly rising. Outside, on the law enforcement hall, all the disciples of the Dao Extreme Palace were looking at the scene in front of them with disbelief. At Guchinga's feet lay the corpses of two Daoji Palace disciples. Everybody didn't expect that. That gentle and elegant big brother, who used to give people a spring breeze. Surprisingly, he would suddenly strike and kill two Dao Extreme Palace disciples in a row in the law enforcement hall, together with senior brother Yi, who died under the thunderbolt earlier. Guchinga had already killed 3 people in a row. At this moment, their gazes towards Guchinga turned from shock to disappointment and anger. This is still their big brother. It's simply the devil's way. On the other side, the moment he saw Long Aotian die, it was as if the law enforcement hall master's body had been emptied, sitting paralyzed directly on top of the main hall. Over. It's all over. Long Aotian is dead. That's the bloodline of the Vice Palace Master. At such a young age, he is a supreme talent who has reached the peak of the Jedan stage. If given enough time to grow, it may not be impossible to break through Yuaning and transformation of God in the future, become the mainstay of the Daoji Palace. And today, this Dao Polarity Palace's supreme pride had died prematurely. Still, he died prematurely in the Daoji Palace's law enforcement hall. He even died at the hands of Guchinga, a great disciple of Daoji Palace. It's over. It's all over. As if he was lost in thought, the law enforcement hall master sat in the middle of the great hall and muttered. Seeing this scene, the hatred and disappointment for Guchinga grew stronger among the Daoji Palace disciples on the side. They didn't know that the law enforcement hall master was because of long Aotion status and despair. In their opinion, the law enforcement hall master was lamenting and angry about the death of so ordinary disciples of the Dao Polarity Palace. The Dao Polarity Palace had such a law enforcement hall master. It makes them feel warm in their hearts. Guchinga has fallen into the devil's path by slaughtering fellow disciples. She doesn't deserve to be a disciple of the palace. It's even more unworthy of being the Daoji Palace's eldest senior brother. So please ask the law enforcement hall master to punish Guchinga. Please, Palace Master, expel Guchinga from the sect. These disciples of the Dao Polarity Palace clenched their teeth and clasped their fists as they shouted in unison towards the law enforcement hall master. Let the law enforcement hall master punish Guchinga. Also Taoist Pole Palace a clear sky. Hearing these words, the law enforcement hall master also came back to his senses from the disorientation he had just experienced. A flash of light erupted from his eyes, and he stood up from the ground and, pointing at Guchinga, who was standing in the middle of the hall. Guchinga, how dare you slaughter the sect disciples one after another in the law enforcement hall? Simply don't put this seat in your eyes. Follow this seat to see the palace master and let the palace master personally punish you. This is a big deal. When it came to the vice palace master of the Dao Polarity Palace, it simply wasn't something that he, a law enforcement hall master, could handle anymore. The only way to calm the vice palace master's anger was to have the palace master step in. Having said that, the law enforcement hall master stepped on the void and stood in the clouds above the great hall. Seeing that Guchinga was always standing in the main hall, there has been no statement. The law enforcement hall master also couldn't suppress the anger in his heart and flew directly towards Guchinga. Guchinga, I told you to follow this seat to meet the palace master. Are you deaf? Having said that, the law enforcement hall master's palm contained the terrifying pressure of the refined void realm and grabbed towards Guchinga's shoulders. Not good. The moment his palm touched Guchinga's shoulder, the law enforcement hall master's face suddenly changed. Before he could react, Crypto, a dragon's roar and Phoenix's cry echoed directly above the great hall. Buzz. A terrifying pressure swept out. As strong as the master of the law enforcement hall of the refined void realm, it was also under the impact of this terrifying pressure all kinds of smashed on the pillars of the great hall, spitting out sacrificial blood from his mouth. A touch of unprecedented fear surfaced on his entire face. Wow. Seeing this scene, the Dao Extreme Palace disciples gathered in the main hall were all in an uproar, looking at Guchinga with fear, killing 2 Dao Polarity Palace disciples in a row in front of the law enforcement hall master. Now it was even a direct strike against the middle of the law enforcement hall. This moment, everyone realizes that their once gentle and the spring-like eldest brother had already gotten into the devil at some unknown time, turned into a demon of wreckage's ilk. Run, eldest brother has entered the devil. Report this matter to the palace master. Guchinga should be punished. Eldest brother, you've let us down too much. These Dao Polarity Palace disciples bloomed with a spiritual light around their bodies. The feet were running a subtle pace about to flee towards the outside of the temple. Buzz. As these Daoji Palace disciples ran to the edge of the hall, all of them were stopped by a terrifying boundary, which cleansed the power of the dragon and phoenix. A dragon and phoenix shadow appeared vividly above the boundary. In the meantime, Guchinga opened her eyes and looked around her, seeing the boundary that shrouded the great hall. He also saw the fear in the eyes of those Dao Polarity Palace disciples. Guchinga. Just then, an angry voice interrupted Guchinga's gaze. It's the Lord of the Hall of Law Enforcement. The law enforcement hall master half leaned against one of the pillars of the great hall, his eyes surging with flames, deadly staring at Guchinga. Killing a disciple of the Dao Polarity Palace, disobeying the orders of the law enforcement hall, and striking out at the elders of the sect. Do you realize what you're doing to yourself? Your Highness, you can eat nonsense, but you can't talk nonsense. Surname Yi was killed by a thunderbolt, but Feng Bauer slandered me for murder. She deserves to die. Long Aotion wanted to save the beauty heroically, and threatened the Daoji Palace's eldest senior brother with his Jidan body by committing the following offense. Damn you too. As for the temple master, since the beginning, has the disciple ever threatened the palace master? From the beginning to the end, I didn't put up a fight, so how can you say that a disciple put up a fight against an elder? Could it be that you, as the head of the law enforcement hall, are able to believe what you say and slander wantonly? Guchinga looked around the crowd in the great hall and argued with reason. 005. Guchinga is more ruthless than the devil's way, killing all her fellow disciples and beloved elders. Hear this. All of the Tao Polarity Palace disciples in the main hall directly froze in place. Unbelievably, he looked at Guchinga. They didn't expect that Guchinga hadn't recognized her mistake by now. Blame everyone else for everything. Such a person. How does one deserve to be their big brother? Even if Feng Bauer is framing you, you can just explain clearly. Is it necessary to kill someone? Not bad. Senior brother Long is only helping senior sister Bauer to seek justice. What fault does he have that? Why did you kill him? Eldest brother, what is your heart made of? Why can you be so cold-blooded? They're all dead, and you still don't think you're wrong? Eldest brother, quickly admit your mistake to the law enforcement hall master. Don't continue to be wrong. For a moment, all these surrounding disciples of the Tao Polarity Palace were looking at Guchinga with indignation. There was disappointment, fear, and more than anything else, a pity tinged with moral emotion in that gaze. It's like taking the moral high ground and having pity on a criminal. That's right. It's amazing that these people are taking pity on him. Guchinga man went numb. The brain circuits of the female channel are so much clearer than one another. Until now, they haven't realized the truth of the matter. That is, he, Guchinga, is a true immortal. He is immortal and the others are mortal. Even if Guchinga is at fault. Nor is it the turn of these people to judge him. Those stares, they're really annoying. Guchinga, you're wrong. As the clan's eldest brother, you should love and protect the clan's disciples. You should never, ever, shouldn't have killed Long Ao Tian and Feng Bauer. Do you know that Long Ao Tian is the supreme pride of our Tao Extreme Palace? You can't be blamed for killing him even if you are the palace master's personal disciple. Guchinga, wake up. Are you still the pride of our Daoji Palace? Look at what you've done. The Tao Polarity Palace has lost a supreme heavenly pride because of you. The law enforcement hall master looked at Guchinga with grief and pain. That gaze, it made Guchinga incomparably annoyed. Sure enough, there are no brain circuits in the female genre. Up until now, the law enforcement hall master was still pursuing him for killing Long Ao Tian? He didn't even realize it in the slightest. These words of his would cause the Tao Polarity Palace to painfully lose a 20-year-old true immortal realm's top combatant. Absolute heavenly pride? That's just the threshold for meeting me. Guchinga walked up to the law enforcement hall master. Law enforcement hall master, I, Guchinga, am right. Having said that, Guchinga got up and looked around at the rest of the Tao Polarity Palace disciples above the main hall. Whether or not I, Guchinga, am at fault is up in the air for now. Let me just ask you guys, even if I, Guchinga, am at fault, when is it your turn to judge me? One of you Foundation stage, Jiadan stage, and Yuaning stage disciples, the one that hasn't been saved by me, Guchinga? Who are you to judge me? At those words, there was silence in the great hall. A young girl in a long court dress stepped out and, the young girl crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at Guchinga with red eyes. Eldest brother, I know that you have saved me before, and because of this, I don't want to see you go further and further wrong. Bang! The maiden's words were just in the middle of. The body directly transformed into a blood mist that enveloped the great hall. Guchinga pulled out her ears, and her faceless mask looked around at the crowd. Who else wants to sensitize me? A teenager walked out from the crowd, gritting his teeth and looking at Guchinga. Guchinga, you've gone too far. Senior sister Lu is doing this for your own good. How could you? Bang! This teenager directly turned into a bloody mist. Guchinga held back the anger in her heart and continued to ask, who else? He had made up his mind. Since the disciples of the Tao Polarity Palace don't know reverence, then Guchinga told them how to be reverent. Guchinga struck out mercilessly. It directly caused the other Tao Extreme Palace disciples present to freeze on the spot. My throat feels dry. No. Was this still the gentle and elegant eldest brother they remembered? How can you be so cold, so heartless, straightforward and unreasonable, killing fellow disciples just as they say? Seeing this scene, some of the disciples who had already set their feet, he also slowly retracted his footsteps and looked at Guchinga as if he had seen a ghost or god. Guchinga, you still dare to slaughter your fellow disciples. Are you doing this to deserve what the palace master taught you? Are you worthy of the clan's cultivation of you? Seeing two disciples fall in front of him, the law enforcement hall master was so furious that he spat out a mouthful of blood and looked at Guchinga angrily. Bang! However, as soon as the words of the law enforcement hall master left his mouth, his entire body was directly transformed into a mist of blood. Wow! With the death of the lord of the law enforcement palace, there was a dead silence in the great hall. The rest of the Tao Polarity Palace disciples couldn't help but gulp when they saw this scene. I don't care if you slaughtered your classmates. He, Guchinga, had dared to strike out at the elders of the clan and slaughter the law enforcement hall master? It was only now that they truly realized how powerful Guchinga was, how cold-blooded and heartless this eldest brother is today. Eldest brother, the law enforcement hall master is a senior who has watched you grow up since you were a child. At this moment, a middle-aged disciple in his 30s walked out from the crowd. He wanted to awaken that touch of goodness and guilt in Guchinga's heart through the death of the law enforcement hall master. Only, he overestimated himself. Bang! This middle-aged disciple, before his words were finished, directly turned into blood mist. For a moment, the entire hall was covered in a thick aura of blood. Crazy, big brother crazy? I'll kill anyone I see. At this moment, in the hearts of those surrounding Tao Polarity Palace disciples, such thoughts surfaced unanimously. Guchinga today, it was simply 100 times more ruthless and venomous than the Devil's Way giants. The Devil's Way giants, even though they killed people of the righteous path, they at least didn't slaughter their fellow disciples, right? But what about Guchinga? He killed his fellow disciples and beloved elders, tougher than the Demon Road crowd. Just as the hearts of the crowd trembled as to how they should survive this certain death, buzz, a terrifying true immortal pressure came to suppress from above the firmament. Just as the crowd was uncertain, ka-chow, above the dome of the sky, a crack appeared in the boundary that had originally shrouded the entire open-air hall. Immediately following, the entire boundary seemed like a shattered eggshell, a crack climbing and surfacing. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped the entire boundary. Roar! An earth-shattering dragon's roar rang out. The boundary shattered. They squarely saw, in that vault of heaven above the clouds and mist rolled, there's a pale dragon tumbling through the clouds. The dragon's body was majestic, stretching for thousands of miles, and its domineering aura was like a mountain peak that stood between heaven and earth. In the midst of the crowds shocked, the celestial dragon above the sky hovered and stood, transforming into a man dressed in a long, green robe, with a green flutter that, immortal man. The man stood with his arms folded, the long shirt hunted in the cold wind, and countless thunder poured out between the opening and closing of his eyes. It's like the Lord of Thunder, as the man in the air appeared, above the law enforcement hall. Those Tao Polarity Palace disciples who had been pale just a moment ago, a flash of fervor surfaced in their eyes. 006, 3,000 thunderbolts, 3,000 thunderbolts, 3,000 thunderbolts. Guchinga slowly raised her head, and her pupils under the faceless mask saw the visitor. Noticing the dragon bloodline in Guchinga's body, endless thunder flashed in Long Tang's eyes as he snapped. Guchinga, slaughtering fellow disciples, massacring clan elders, and disregarding clan rules, his crime should be executed. Today, this palace master will kill you, a sinful disciple, for the sake of the Tao Polarity Palace, and clear away the scourge for the Tao Polarity Palace. Rumble. When these words came out, muffled thunder exploded above the firmament, as if rolling heavenly thunder was added, and the mighty town of the world. Ha, old thief Long Tang, what kind of righteousness are you pretending here? Didn't I just kill your son, Long Ao Tian? Do you want to avenge your son? If you don't come to me, I'm going to come to you, and I'd like to see that. What is the intention of you, a person of the dragon race, in mixing into my little Tao Extreme Palace, and what exactly are you scheming for? Guchinga responded in a cold voice, speaking without flinching. What do you mean? For the sake of the Daoji Palace? You don't come out when you yourself are being judged by Feng Bauer and the others. Killed your son. You're out on your ass? What a chipper double standard. However, Guchinga had long since become immune to the setting of the female frequencies all around intellectual descent. Those foundation stage and Jiedan stage disciples dared to judge themselves, not to mention Long Tang, a true immortal realm. As Guchinga's voice fell, those surrounding disciples of the Tao Polarity Palace who had come to watch couldn't help but suck in a breath of cool air. Asterisk. Long Ao Tian is actually the son of the Vice Palace Master? It shouldn't be wrong, or else the Vice Palace Master wouldn't have suddenly come out of the gate, to have killed the Vice Palace Master's son. Guchinga really deserves to die. Old Devil Gu has finally reached the end of his wave, so what if he's at the true immortal realm? It's a scourge to keep such a vicious true immortal realm. The Vice Palace Master is also at the true immortal realm. Evil Gu definitely won't be able to escape this time. So what if you're at the true immortal realm? If you dare to ignore the rules of the clan and slaughter your fellow disciples, you're dead meat. I can see the Vice Palace Master make a move. This is a true immortal realm level encounter. I'm really looking forward to it. How many moves do you guys think Guchinga can block? One move at the most. Although Guchinga is also in the true immortal realm, but Guchinga has only just survived the Thunder Tribulation. How could she be a match for the Vice Palace Master? Not bad. Old Devil Gu is definitely no match for the Vice Palace Master. As Vice Palace Master Long Tang appeared, at this moment, these disciples of the Tao Polarity Palace around them all turned their gazes toward Guchinga in the arena. in their opinion. Although Guchinga is also in the true immortal realm, but there was no way to compare it to the Vice Palace Master, who had broken through the true immortal realm in 1,000 years. His techniques and divine abilities had long since reached the state of perfection, tending towards perfection. The strength between the two must also be vastly different. In their opinion, it was only a matter of time before Guchinga fell. Evil Gu, you slaughtered your fellow disciples and elders. People like you are a disgrace to my Daoji palace. Go to hell. Suddenly, a stern voice appeared in the crowd. The person who spoke was a Jiedan stage disciple who looked up to Feng Baoer. Before, they were in the way of Guchinga's strength and didn't dare to speak out to provoke her. But now that the Vice Palace Master was present, and he was bold. Humph. So what if the true immortal realm is here? The Vice Palace Master is here. I don't believe you'll still dare to take a shot at me. Just as this Jiedan stage disciple was secretly pleased with himself. Swish. The space in front of him rippled. Guchinga appeared in front of him, a stern gaze under a faceless mask that, staring at him like death. Grand. Eldest brother, the Vice Palace Master is here. You can't. Seeing Guchinga appear, this Jiedan stage disciple felt chills running down his spine and sweating all over. Before the words are out of my mouth. True spirit method, true dragon claw. Guchinga's 5 fingers were clasped in vain, like a dragon's claw, directly piercing the chest of the Jiedan stage disciple in front of her, ending his life of sin. How dare you? How dare you slaughter your fellow disciples in front of this seat? Guchinga, you've become a demon. Guchinga struck out brazenly. It was undoubtedly a hard slap to Longtang's face, not putting him, the Vice Palace Master, in the slightest. Longtang already hated Guchinga to the bone because of Long Ao Tian's death, and at this moment, he was even more furious. No more repression. 3,000 thunderbolts. 3,000 thunder movements. 3,000 thunderbolts. As its voice fell, the thunder tumbled across the sky, filling the heavens and earth. Longtang choked with one hand. Thunder tilted down from the firmament and, it was as if the thunder of heavenly punishment turned into a chain of thunder that enveloped towards Guchinga. A mere early stage true immortal. How dare you offend below? Looking for death. Feeling the power of the thunder law that was spreading across the sky, a look of contempt surfaced on Guchinga's face. If it was before, with 3,000 thunderbolts he might still be cautious. However, since acquiring Feng Baoer's heavenly phoenix origin, and Long Ao Tian's dragon bloodline, after these two forces melded in the body, Guchinga's strength was directly pushed to the peak of the true immortal realm by this force, the early stage of the true immortal realm. Griffin, true spirit method, true dragon claw. As its voice fell, Guchinga once again performed the true spirit technique. Only, this time when it was cast, its pressure exceeded the previous one 100 times. Guchinga took a step into the sky, and a morose dragon scale appeared above her right hand, and as the dragon's claw swung, it's like a real dragon swinging its tail. Behind Guchinga, a true dragon's shadow actually did emerge. Hiss. Surprisingly, it's the true dragon claw again. Guchinga is really arrogant. How dare you cast the true spirit technique in front of the Vice Palace Master? Not bad. Who doesn't know that the Vice Palace Master is a true immortal of the Dragon Clan? It was because he couldn't stand what the dragon race was doing in slaughtering the human race that he left the dragon race to join the Shaodao Polarity Palace, and performed the true spirit method in front of the Vice Palace Master. It's just like playing with a big sword in front of the Guangong, showing off the axe. Guchinga really has a poor path. Just broke through the true immortal realm, and even her spells are pitifully few and far between. How could it be a match for the Vice Palace Master? Just when everyone thought that Guchinga was no match, the sudden change in the sky above however, it made everyone present freeze in place, shocked and unable to close their mouths. Just see, above the vault of heaven, the true dragon claw transformed by Guchinga's right hand actually did not dodge in the face of the roiling thunder chains winding around it, rushing directly at those thunder chains to meet them. The moment those entangled thunder chains came into contact with the true dragon's claws, it's just going to pop up like an inch. It turned into countless thunderbolts and dissipated into the heavens and earth. Boom! As a terrifying impact cleansed away the curtain fell on the true immortal realm exchange in the firmament, with both sides pulling away again. Seeing the hideous bloodstained dragon claw on Vice Palace Master Longtang's chest, after seeing the Vice Palace Master's blood spilled in the air, everyone was confused. How is that possible? The Vice Palace Master actually lost? Or was he defeated under the Dragon True Spirit Law? More than defeated. The Vice Patriarch simply didn't resist a single move. If it weren't for the amazing physique of the dragon race, it's estimated that with that claw just now, all of them will fall on the spot. One of the Void Refining Realm Elders spoke out. Hiss. Hearing this, everyone present was staring at this in disbelief with their jaws agape. You can't even take a hit? Guchinga had only just stepped into the true immortal realm, but she was as terrifying as this. P.S. The realm is divided. Qi refining, foundation building, Dan conjugation, Yuanying, transformation, refining the void, harmonization, Mahayana, transition, true immortal, golden immortal, Tai Jade immortal, Dala heavenly honors, and Taoist ancestor. The third step in the realm is followed up in science and technology. New book period you readers greatly support. Ask for any data that. Be sure to catch up on the latest chapters if you like. Also, if there is a book pushing Big Brother, you can push it. This book is absolutely riotous. All the way across the board. 007, I am a peak true immortal. Who dares to kill me? Who can kill me? Up in the sky. Longtang looked at the bloodstain on his chest with disbelief. The gaze that looked at Guchinga became more and more resentful and hideous. How is this possible? Guchinga, how do you know the Dragon Clan true spirit law? Guchinga looked at Longtang skeptically. He can't figure it out. How did he ask this question? Is that a ing thing a true immortal could ask? I just killed your son and melted your dragon bloodline. Guess why I know your dragon true spirit law? Guchinga looked at Longtang with a cold smile. This vice palace master in front of him was not only weak, but also had such a low IQ. Guchinga was confused. How could such a person cultivate to a true immortal? If it were in a male frequency, it was estimated that before he reached foundation establishment, he would have to be slaughtered and refined into an elixir. Nothing, Guchinga. You went so far as to strike out at your fellow disciples and murder my son in order to cultivate the dragon true spirit method. You're out of your mind. Give my son back his life. Hearing Guchinga mention Long Aotian again, Longtang's eyes were covered in blood, and a majestic dragon pressure washed out from his body. Dragon Tang carries the Sunlong on his back. The right hand clenched its fist like a great sun pouring down, carrying an unrivaled might as it smashed towards Guchinga. Come again? Guchinga looked at Longtang with disdain. It seems that the outburst just now hadn't made this vice palace master remember true spirit technique, imperial dragon technique. Guchinga choked with one hand and drank in a deep voice. Roar! As the voice fell, a dragon's roar shook the sky and resounded around the world. In a split second, a pale dragon with a purple gold glow emerged from in front of Guchinga. It pressed horizontally towards Longtang. Hiss dash! Imperial true dragon. Eldest senior brother's attainments in true spirit laws are unexpectedly so terrifying. The vice palace master's dragon fist is as terrifying as it is. Who will win this time? Seeing the terrifying pressure of the two true spirit laws washing out of the dome of the sky, those Tao Polarity Palace disciples below were all jaw-dropped, seemingly even stopping their breathing. Nervously, he looked at the two figures in the firmament. Just as the two true spirit laws were about to collide together, buzz, a radiant sword light, like a heavenly river pouring in, directly crushed the two major true spirit laws. Sword intent whistled, transforming into a great wall of sword chi in the air that separate Longtang and Guchinga. Sinful disciple. How dare you violate your superiors and strike out at the vice palace master? Is this how your master teaches you? A melodious, gentle voice resounded above the firmament. With an unquestionable pressure and dominance, the field was silent. Until this moment. It was only then that everyone saw that in the midst of that whistling sword intent, there was a figure that stood indifferently. Dark cloudy hair, face lined with the morning sun, lips containing broken jade, eyebrows as light as the spring mountains. Even the wind and snow were eclipsed by the flow of his eyes. Even in her wide robe, she still couldn't hide that proud figure. Instead, it gave her a beauty that was a mishmash of coolness and femininity. This is the Palace Master? Surprisingly, even Lord Palace Master has alarmed the three true immortal realm powerhouses of the Shao Dao Polarity Palace. To have two of them out at the same time. What a feast! Even if he's a true immortal realm, it's impossible for him to hold back two true immortal realms joining forces. It is even less likely that it will stop the heavenly justice. Two true immortal realm powerhouses, all because Guchinga alone appeared. Guchinga is finished today. At this moment, all the elders and disciples of the Daoji Palace, all gazes looked admiringly at the woman standing on top of the Great Wall of Swordchi. Unlike Vice Palace Master Longtang, who was only in existence at the early stage of the true immortal realm, this Palace Master of theirs, Yu Qingcheng, but a superb power of the late true immortal realm. It is the strongest combatant of the Shao Dao Polarity Palace, and one of the 5 sword immortals known as the Dragon Phoenix Continent. The fame of the icy sword immortal, Jade Qingcheng had the proud battle record of using the power of one person to stand alone against the 3 true immortals of the Devil's Path who had joined forces and retreated in one piece. Whether it's the realm, or the strength, in the true immortal realm were all existences capable of sweeping across the same rank. On the other side, Guchinga was also struck by Yu Qingcheng's stunningly gorgeous face that, surprised by the cool and solitary temperament, he studied under the Taiye sect, the leader of the orthodox way. Ever since he was young, he has shown an unrivaled talent for the sword. With the Taya sect falling apart by the Devil Dao giants in conjunction with the Dragon and Phoenix clans, Jade Xingqiang came alone to the northern land to start a sect, established the small Daopole Palace and assumed the responsibility of guarding the Sea of the North. I've been practicing for thousands of years, but I haven't found a partner yet. It could be described as the white moonlight in the hearts of all the righteous giants in the Dragon Phoenix continent, absolutely synonymous with flawlessness. Palace Master. Guqinga innocently slaughtered her fellow disciples and massacred the law enforcement hall master. The ruthlessness of this son's methods has already fallen into the devil's path. Please order the patriarch to kill this Feng. As Yu Qingcheng appeared, Long Tongue stood out and pointed at Guqinga angrily and said, Master, disciple was wrongly accused. Adverse disciple, slaughtering your fellow disciples and massacring the elders of the clan. How dare you still speak out in sophistry? Guqinga was just about to explain when she was interrupted by Yu Qingcheng's icy tone. Hearing Yu Qingcheng's cold and agitated tone, Guqinga was confused. Nice guy? Are you really my master? I've been your disciple for 10 years and you don't believe me. Instead, they went to believe the words of the alien true immortal who had joined the Dao Polarity Palace midway. Master, disciple was wrongly accused. At that time, disciple was in the middle of a tribulation. Guqinga felt that she hadn't made herself clear. However, he was just about to speak up and explain. Once again, he was ruthlessly interrupted by Yu Qingcheng. This palace won't listen. Men's mouths lie to ghosts. This palace saw you fight in the clan with your own eyes. What else do you have to explain about the following offense? Guqinga was struck by lightning and froze directly in place. Good. Is this the white moonlight of the Dragon Phoenix continent? This turned out to be the character who started the sect. Guqinga now felt that with a woman like Yu Qingcheng in the Taya sect, the destruction of the Taya sect didn't seem to be something unacceptable. Sure enough, the brain circuits of a female frequency can't be thought of in terms of common sense. Master, disciple is not wrong. Guqinga took a deep breath and, just as he was about to open his mouth, he was directly interrupted by the sound of a crisp sword chime. Just see. Yu Qingcheng drew the bathing frost sword in her hand and pointed it at Guqinga. Shut up. This palace is not your master. Slaughtering fellow disciples and committing the following offense. This palace will expel you from the clan today as a warning to others. Palace Master. Guqinga slaughtered her fellow disciples. Her crime is punishable. If we let this happen, lest the scourge of the Dragon Phoenix continent. Kill Guqinga! Kill Guqinga! Listening to Yu Qingcheng's cold and heartless words, listening to the crusading voices of those fellow disciples and sisters around him who had been guarded by him in the past, Guqinga's heart had the most trace of recognition for the Dao Polarity Palace had also worn out. Interesting, interesting, it's really wonderful. Ha ha, let there be 1,000 accusations and groups of people around you. Guqinga smiled faintly. I am a peak true immortal. Who dares to kill me? Who can kill me? Ha ha, 008, Guqinga, am not wrong. What is wrong is this world. Adversary. Seeing that Guqinga was not remorseful in the slightest, but instead, she even became more and more wild, Yu Qingcheng angrily rebuked. Don't be arrogant. This palace master will clean up the house today. I'm going to get rid of you. Buzz. As the words fell, Yu Qingcheng used her body to control the sword, and the great wall of sword chi moved with her. Boundless sword chi stirred the sky and attacked towards Guqinga. Palace master. This son has fallen into the devil's path. I'll join you to put down the devil. See the situation. Long Tang let out a stern cry, and the shadow of a pale dragon emerged behind him. Squeezing the thunder halberd in his hand, the dragon marched and came pinning towards Guqinga from the other side. He had just exchanged blows with Guqinga, knowing that Guqinga was terrifying. The moment he made a move, it was an immortal weapon enhancement. It didn't give Guqinga the slightest bit of power to resist. Feeling the two terrifying killing great arts of the true immortal realm, Guqinga's eyes showed indifference and her tone was flat. Guqinga, am not wrong. It's you who are wrong. What's wrong is the world. Roar. Crypto. As Guqinga's voice fell, the shadows of the Tsang dragon and the heavenly phoenix emerged from behind Guqinga. The pressure of a peak true immortal washed out without reservation. Guqinga executed the true dragon claw with one hand and squeezed the heavenly phoenix fist with the other. At the same time, he executed two major true spirit laws and pressed horizontally towards the two Dao Polarity Palace true immortals. Boom! As the three great true immortal realms exchanged blows, above the dome of the sky, clouds rolled over, and the aura between heaven and earth boiled up at this moment. Ka-chow! Long Tang had just killed in front of Guqinga with his thunder war halberd in hand, and then a crisp click was heard. In the next moment, a crack emerged from the immortal magic treasure thunder halberd in his hand and it directly shattered. Roar! Before Long Tang could return to his senses, a dragon's roar crowns heaven and earth. Long Tang's pupils were also occupied by a sharp and superb dragon claw. Barely. A stream of blood spilled into the air. Longtang straight away felt his gaze rotate 360 degrees and he saw his headless body. The Guchinga was seen collecting and pinching the heavenly phoenix fist to collide with Yu Qingqing's great wall of sword chi. The great wall of sword chi condensed by countless sword chi. The moment it touched the heavenly phoenix fist, it failed to block it in the slightest and popped apart like destruction. Guchinga's fist went straight through Yu Qingqing's chest. With the death of Yu Qingqing, the vision in Longtang's eyes was also rapidly blurring and his pupils dissipated. He really couldn't figure out why Guchinga, who had just broken through the true immortal realm, could be so terrifying, with the ability to crush the true immortal realm. It was even a terrifying strength that killed him and Yu Qingqing in seconds. Only, he could never know the reason why. Bang! As Longtang's head smashed into the ground, his consciousness dissipated. Up in the sky, Gu Qingqing's arm went through Yu Qingqing's chest. In a warm voice in Yu Qingqing's ear, he said, "Master, disciple is not wrong. It is you who are wrong." Having said that, the fire of nirvana ignited above Gu Qingqing's arm, burning Jade Qingqing's body. With the flames out, the clothes above Guchinga's right arm had been burned to the ground, and the arm showed a heavenly phoenix texture. Guchinga carried her hands behind her back, her gaze overlooking the crowd of Daodaiji Palace below. Who else? To kill me? As Guchinga's voice fell, there was a dead silence in heaven and earth. The entire Daoji Palace, from the hall masters and elders down to the disciples, all of them were dumbfounded and frozen place with their jaws agape. The pupils looking at Guchinga also contracted sharply, as if they were seeing a ghost. Palace Master. Dead? The Vice Palace Master is also dead. One person slaughtering two true immortal realm powerhouses. Didn't Guchinga he just break through the true immortal realm? How is it so horrible? Devil. Guchinga is a demon. He actually didn't even spare his own teaching master. Even the Palace Master is dead. Who else from the Dao Polarity Palace can stop this god of murder? What Guchinga? Ruthless and ruthless. It's almost like Gu old devil. The Dao Polarity Palace is going to be finished. Seeing that figure above the celestial dome that had entered the devil like an abyss, all the people of the Dao Polarity Palace were pale and trembling. Guchinga even killed the Palace Master. It's been a killing spree. Can they still live? He. Fellow Daoist Gu's battle prowess is unmatched. It's truly a blessing for my Dao Extreme Palace. Just then, an old laughter cleansed from the back of the Sex Mountain. Immediately following, a green-colored haze shot straight up from the back of the mountain into the sky, transforming into a terrifying willow tree that straddled heaven and earth. The branches of the trees meander and grow. An old man dressed in a green robe with an immortal style came to Guchinga with his feet on vines, arching his hand toward Guchinga. This is Vice Palace Master Lu Wushuang. Just now, the Vice Palace Master addressed old Devil Gu as a fellow Daoist? It's over. Even Palace Master Lu has shown weakness. The Dao Extreme Palace is truly powerless this time. Justice cannot bow to sin. How can you bow down to sin? Palace Lord Lu? You must avenge the Jade Palace Master and the Dragon Palace Master. Seeing Lu Wushuang appear, these Dao Polarity Palace disciples present were even more ashen, looking at Lu Wushuang in despair. The two true immortal realms of Yu Qingqing and Longtang were killed in battle one after another. As the Vice Palace Master, Lu Wushuang is their last hope. But now, Lu Wushuang's words had indeed mercilessly crushed the last shred of hope in their hearts. Hearing the voices of those Daoji Palace disciples down below, Guchinga's face showed consternation. He kind of wanted to laugh at that. It seemed that not only him, but even Lu Wushuang, the Vice Palace Master, would be morally kidnapped. The disciples of the Daoji Palace were really well protected, always living the dream, so much so that they can't even see what they're getting themselves into. Guchinga looked at Lu Wushuang, faintly and smilingly said, "What? Is Palace Master Lu here to avenge Yu Qingqing and Longtang?" Lu Wushuang's expression was stunned. A flash of disgust and anger also flashed in the eyes of those Dao Polarity Palace disciples below. Don't dare! This matter of fellow Daoist Gus crossing the threshold of the I have believed in fellow Daoist Gus since the beginning. Long tongue. With Jade pouring city indiscriminately striking out at fellow Daoists. Really not enough to die. Lu Wushuang looked at Guchinga with a compensatory smile. Having heard what was said, a light smile also surfaced at the corner of Guchinga's mouth. Trusted me from the start? You believed it all at first. And you didn't stand up to those disciples when they were slandering me? You didn't step forward when Longtang and Yu Qingqing struck out at me? Now that they're all dead and you're out, what a handful of horses. If it's not for revenge, then why is Palace Master Lu showing up at this moment? Guchinga asked. The reason for me to come forward is to testify for fellow Daoist Gu, to prove that this matter is not your fault. Lu Wushuang looked determined, overlooking the crowd of Dao Polarity Palace disciples below. Shut up. Guchinga is at the true immortal realm, an unearthly pride of my Daoji Palace. How is it possible to slaughter a fellow disciple? On the contrary, it's you guys, with your humble realm, who dare to disrespect the true immortal realm. Not to mention that Guchinga didn't kill a few people. Even if he killed all of you, he'd still be right. Then, Lu Wuxuan looked at Guchinga expectantly. Fellow Daoist Gu, now that Yu Qingcheng is dead and the Daodaiji Palace is leaderless, the position of Daodaiji Palace's palace master, it is rightfully yours to sit. Now that the Dao Extreme Palace is in disarray, it's inevitable that there will be prying eyes from other demonic paths. The old man traveled beyond the northern realm to hold down the fort. After saying that, Lu Wuxuan spread the willow branches under her feet, and she was ready to leave this place. Did I let you go? Behind her, Guchinga coldly voiced out. 009, I am the pinnacle of true immortality, and I am reason. Roar! As Guchinga's voice fell, a pale dragon roared out, its body stretching for 10,000 miles, enveloping towards Lu Wuxuan. He, Guchinga, had killed 2 true immortals of the Dao Polarity Palace in a row. Within a few days, the news would then spread throughout the Dragon Phoenix continent, and at that time, Guchinga would be hunted down by countless powerful people. And at this time, Lu Wuxuan made himself the palace master of the Dao Extreme Palace. What if you're not digging a hole for yourself, and you talk about guarding the northern lands for me? Don't say that Guchinga doesn't believe it. I'm afraid he, Lu Wuxuan, doesn't believe it himself. He said that he was guarding the northern border, but he was just trying to use it to leave the Daodaiji Palace as a place of wrongdoing. If Guchinga let Lu Wuxuan go, what's the difference between him and these brain-dead disciples of the Daoji Palace down there? On the other side, Lu Wuxuan was just about to leave when he heard a dragon's roar resounding from behind him. Lu Wuxuan's face was horrified. Flexing his fingers lightly, the huge willow tree situated at the top of the back mountain running through heaven and earth, stretched directly to the, blocking that Sunlong in anger. He looked at Guchinga. Guchinga, I told you that you were right, but you even tried to kill me, too. Will you still be unreasonable? Reasoning? I am the peak of true immortality, and I am reason. Boom! Guchinga's voice fell, and above her bare right arm, the heavenly phoenix tattoo was as crystal clear as if it had been resurrected. Next moment, the terrifying heavenly phoenix true flame burned towards the willow tree that was protecting Lu Wuxuan's circumference as it spread out across the sky. Willow Wuxuan is a willow tree witness. Willow tree passes through the heavens, and his strength has long since reached the peak of the middle stage of the true immortal realm. Even when facing some late-stage true immortal realm existences, they were not afraid in the slightest. But Guchinga is different. Out of the blue is the true flame of the heavenly phoenix. Fire can be wood. This move directly burned all of Lu Wuxuan's cultivation to the ground. How could he bear it? Ah, old devil Gu, you've bullied people too much. What kind of righteous heavenly pride are you? The Devil's Way giants aren't as unfaithful as you are. Even if I die, I will eradicate you. A scourge, for the Dao Polarity Palace. As the voice fell, Lu Wuxuan merged into the giant willow tree. Faces appeared above the trunk of the tree. Driving the burning trunk of the heavenly phoenix true flame towards Guchinga, it enveloped her. Wherever it passed, even the void was rippled. Guchinga was going to burn him to death with the heavenly phoenix true flame. Then he, Lu Wuxuan, then he used Guchinga's fire and pulled Guchinga to die with him. Seeing the great net compiled by the trunks of the roaming trees, a touch of disdain passed through Guchinga's eyes. Lu Wuxuan, you've forgotten that. Whose disciple am I now? What do you mean? Lu Wuxuan was stupefied. Just as he froze, an ear-shattering buzzing sound of a sword rang out from behind him. Turn your head and look. Lu Wuxuan was numb. Jade Qingqing's sword. Why is it chopping towards him? Isn't Yu Qingqing dead? Swish! Right in the middle of Lu Wuxuan's confusion, a 3-foot-long sword that cleansed the chill of. It was like a heavenly river hanging upside down directly toward the willow tree that Lu Wuxuan had transformed into. Sword she rushed to the sky, and the void trembled wherever the sword went. A ripple of emptiness was cleansed. Boom! The body of the sword was like a river of stars cutting through the sky-supporting willow tree, which was cut off at the waist. The large torso was directly across the mountains. Lu Wuxuan's eyes showed fear, allowing the sky phoenix true flame to burn his body clean. Boom boom! The roiling true flames covered the sky and seemed to burn the dome of the sky, and the rolling wolf smoke went straight up into the clouds. An unprecedented despair filled the hearts of everyone in the Dao Extreme Palace. Dead. All dead. The 3 great true immortal powerhouses of the Dao Polarity Palace were killed cleanly in an instant? Didn't old Devil Gu just cross the lightning tribulation and just break through the true immortal realm? How could his strength be so heaven-defying? The heavens have no eyes. Old Devil Gu, you killed the elders of the clan and overthrew the Daodaiji Palace, making the northern land defense of the human race all but destroyed. You are a sinner of the human race. A white-haired old man from the Dao Extreme Palace stood out and, with eyes wide open, She pointed at Gu Qingge and angrily rebuked. He was an elder of the Dao Polarity Palace. And he was even one of the Dao Polarity Palace patriarchs. He joined the Daoji Palace when it was first established. The centuries have been dedicated to the Daoji Palace. He had always considered the Dao Polarity Palace as his hometown. But today, his hometown was not destroyed by those invaders, but it was destroyed among the late generations of his hometown. Looking at Gu Qingge, who stood above the sky like a demon god, he hated to be able to eat his flesh and bruise his bones. Also come. Hearing the old man's words, Gu Qingge also froze. He killed the 3 true immortals of Daoji Palace, having thought that these people would be squeamish, that they would know what fear means. I didn't think anyone would dare to provoke myself. He's not afraid to die. Is everyone in the women's club so brave? Aren't you afraid to die? Gu Qingge looked at the old man and asked, what is fear? So what if you are able to kill the old man? Can you kill everyone in the Dao Polarity Palace? What if you just killed us all? My children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren will remember you as an enemy for generations to come. Old Devil Gu. This world is always the world of the righteous. You can't kill them all. The old man was not afraid of Gu Qingge and said with great righteousness, nice. This world has always been the world of the righteous, the world of the multitudes. It is more the world of Duanru Taoism, and might can never prevail over truth. Old Devil Gu, we're not afraid of you. We are the people of the Dao Polarity Palace, the people of the righteous path, and we only talk about reason, never bow to the forces of evil. As the old man's words fell, the elders and disciples below who had just shown fear on their faces were also infected by the old man's words. The group looked at Gu Qingge with excitement. Good. Sons, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren speak up. You're afraid you'll kill fewer people. So you're reminding yourself, aren't you? This female frequency is pretty wicked. It's not often you see such a pedantic immortal cultivator in the male genre. What's your name? Gu Qingge looked at the white-haired old man and asked. Old man Chen Yang, elder of the Dao Polarity Palace. When you first joined the Dao Polarity Palace, child, and the old man taught you, my son, your path is narrow. You won't get far. Turn back. Chen Yang looked at Gu Qingge sadly. Although Gu Qingge had killed her fellow disciples, she had even killed the 3 true immortals of the Dao Polarity Palace with her own hands. But in his eyes, Gu Qingge was still a latecomer, and as long as there was still the slightest chance that he wouldn't even give up Gu Qingge. Child, the way of immortal cultivation is honored by those who have attained it. Old knave, I'm in the true immortal realm. Your mere void refinement realm doesn't bow to me 3 times. How dare you call yourself an elder? Damn you! Boom! Gu Qingge pointed out a finger, and the lingering force around her instantly boiled over. An immortal finger falls from the sky. It directly crushed the old man into crumbs. Originally, he was quite appreciative of Chen Yang's style and wanted to reason with him. After all, it's not often that bones are so hard. What Gu Qingge didn't expect was that this Chen Yang's mouth is harder than a bone. Taking advantage of yourself when you're dying? Kill the god. Killing at the drop of a hat. What a god of killing. I've never seen such a murderous intent in my life. 010, reasonable nesting. Fishing and killing, right? Just now, they thought that Gu Qingge's conscience was still intact when she spoke up and asked. I didn't expect to kill someone at the drop of a hat. The scene of directly pressing Elder Chen to death with a single finger caused everyone present to be dumbfounded. No, Elder Chen just said one word and the child died? Although you are in the realm of true immortals. But who isn't a kid yet? As far as that goes? What kind of looks are you guys getting? I, Gu Qingge, have always convinced people with virtue and do not like to kill. But Chen Yang committed the following offense. I had to kill. If you think I've done wrong, you can say so, as long as it's justified. I, Gu Qingge, will never make things difficult for my fellow disciples. Looking around at the angry gazes of these former fellow disciples. Gu Qingge talked lightly. Don't these people claim to be righteous and believe in the truth? Then he, Gu Qingge, had not failed to convince people with reason. Is that true? You'll really listen to us? Another Daoji Palace elder looked at Gu Qingge apprehensively. Bao Xin. Gu Qingge nodded. Just say whatever you have to say, as long as what you say makes sense. Instead of making things difficult for you, I'll just apologize to you. Hearing that, a flash of excitement flashed through this elder's eyes. Coughing lightly twice, he said in a spirited manner, Old Devil Gu. Boom. Fairy fingers caressing the top. This elder had just uttered 3 words when he was directly pressed to death in place by Gu Qingge. Be reasonable. What's with the personal attacks? Don't I, Gu Qingge, have a name? I, Gu Qingge, walk the talk and do the right thing. He's labeled me as Gu Old Devil. Who is to classify me? Gu Qingge looked around the crowd with a morose gaze and said, Hiss dash. You just said you'd be reasonable, and then you turn around and kill? You'll die if I call you Old Devil Gu? Are you good? Doing right? What class are you? You slaughtered your fellow disciples and killed the elders and palace master of Daoji Palace. Aren't you old devil goo? You're not afraid to do it, are you? You're not making any sense. I'm going to kill you. Eldest brother, why have you become so strange? I'm on the verge of not recognizing you. At this moment, a female disciple of the Jedan stage walked out and looked at Guchinga with red eyes. Boom! Another immortal's finger falls from the firmament. It directly pressed out a several feet deep pit in the law enforcement hall where the female disciple was standing. You don't know me. You don't know me well enough. What's it got to do with me? Who are you to blame it on me? Guchinga? To slander me with this? Who gave you the courage? Guchinga said with an indifferent expression. That's a kill? Reasonable nesting. Fishing kills, right? Kill all the women? That's too harsh. Seeing that no one has come forward, Guchinga said with a slight frown. It seems you all think I'm right, too. In that case, that means you guys agree with what I did earlier? Guchinga, as the Daodaiji Palace's eldest senior brother, you have violated the sect's rules several times and massacred the people of the sect. It's like being a wolf and a vindictive. Hearing Guchinga's words, a Mahayana elder just couldn't stand it and immediately stepped forward to rebuke Guchinga. Asshole! What realm are you in? What realm am I in? All under immortals are ants. How dare you accuse me? Guchinga bellowed. A fist blasted out, and the pale dragon roared, containing the true immortal realm's mighty pressure toward the Mahayana stage elder as it pressed horizontally. Roar! The dragon roars, facing Guchinga, who was at the peak of the true immortal realm. This Mahayana elder did not have the slightest resistance and was directly blown away on the spot. Mahayana blood spilled in the air. Where's the talk of reason? You're the one who said, let's evaluate what you did before. If you can't reason it out, you'll use the realm to pressure people? You are so bottomless. Watching the scene, everyone in the room was frozen to the spot. Before, when Guchinga offered to be reasonable, they thought that Guchinga's conscience was still intact. Now they realize that it doesn't seem that way. It's reasonable. Yes, but you didn't kill a single person. Even killing more and more? Moreover, after killing someone, Guchinga could always find her own reasons. These reasons, while far-fetched but when you think about it, seem to be the case. Eldest brother, you're right. It's us who are wrong. Please let us go. A Yuaning stage disciple couldn't bear the pressure of death and begged Guchinga for mercy as he cried. Asshole. When is it your turn to prove that I'm wrong or not? When it's your turn to prove it to a tiny Yuaning. Who are you to prove it? Boom. Guchinga shot out with anger. Dead again? Good. If we'd known you'd play like that, we wouldn't have stood up and reasoned with you. Say you're wrong and die. If you're right, you're dead. So we deserve to die. Right? You could have just killed us. Why waste the effort? Are you tired? Why are you all silent? Are you guys being unreasonable? Looking around at the dead silence, no one stepped forward for a long time. Guchinga asked, puzzled. Unreasonable? Are you ready to use force? Trying to bully the few with the many? Good. The Daoji Palace is really bullying people too much. But I, Guchinga, am not made of clay either. Die. The words fell. After Guchinga swung her wrist and decapitated Lu Wushuang, the jade-tilting city pei sword, which had been floating around the circumference, emitted a buzzing sound. In an instant, wherever the sword chi whistled, corpses were separated and rivers of blood flowed. As strong as those elders in the Conjugation and Mahayana stages, they are not a match for them either. It was directly charged by the sword energy. In no time at all, the entire Dao Polarity Palace is reduced to a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. A dead silence. Guchinga retrieved her master's saber. There was not a ripple in his eyes, much less sympathy. He's a real immortal. What's wrong with killing some people? These people are the root of all evil. If it weren't for their moralizing, the Dao Polarity Palace wouldn't have fallen to its current state. His master may not be dead either. Suffice it to say, the Daoji Palace was allowed to be tipped over by these people. If Guchinga killed them now, it would be like avenging Daoji Palace and avenging her master. Master, you can rest in peace now that you know in your fountain. You died too quickly and left no legacy for your disciples. This bathing frost sword will be disciples' payment for avenging your death. Looking at the bathing frost sword in her hand, Guchinga said, the bathing frost sword was an 8th grade immortal weapon. It was a rare existence in the true immortal realm, and it was exceptionally smooth to use. After saying that, Guchinga held her sword in one hand and left in large strides. It was quite like stepping on a sword and going with the wind, free between heaven and earth. With Guchinga's departure, rumble, thunder exploded in the sky, and bean-sized rain fell in spurts. The Daoji Palace was turned upside down amidst a mountain of corpses and blood. A young, tender boy of 7 or 8 stood up from the mountain of corpses. The rain washed the blood off his body, mixing with the tears. Master, I, Xingfeng, swear that I will definitely kill old Devil Gu handily. the teenager hissed up to the sky and the words froze right in the middle of the sentence. I don't know when. Guchinga unexpectedly folded back and walked towards him step by step. Rain in its circumference 3 feet away. Cannot get close to the body. Stepping and throwing feet as if the master of heaven and earth. P.S. Next. The whole thing is high energy and absolutely awesome. You should still vote and catch up on your reading and punch the new book list. 011 said good not to kill young girls. Play not up, don't play a grass. You're the master's newest disciple. Aren't you? Immaculate sword body. Your qualifications are so much better than mine were back then. For the sake of my master, I'll spare your life. The next time I see you, I will kill you, Guchinga said, and then turned to leave. Phew. Qingfeng took a long breath and, disturbed in his heart, he had just thought he was going to die. Luckily, old Devil Gu is still mindful of his master's old friendship. Next moment, Qingfeng, who was glad to have escaped death, suddenly froze. Unbelievably, he looked at Guchinga in front of him. Senior brother, we meet again. Guchinga smiled morosely. With a wave of his hand, the frost bathing sword passed through his chest, adding new wounds to Qingfeng's old ones. Desperate, he lay in a pool of blood. You old six, say I'll see you next time and you take 2 steps? After killing Qingfeng, Guchinga transformed into a long rainbow and disappeared into the sky. However, Guchinga did not leave, but covered her breath to follow Qingfeng's every move. Feng Baoer is dead. Anyone who appears next may inherit the power of Feng Baoer's qi, become the new daughter of the heir. Usually at this time the son of qi would appear, holding Qingfeng's corpse in agony. This is a female frequency. Qingfeng was a teenager, and it was obvious that there were other people he had to wait for the son of qi. Fittingly, it didn't take long for the body to be turned over again. A timid little girl of 7 or 8 years old pushed away the body that was pressing down on her. Covered in dirt, he was hugging Qingfeng's corpse and crying in pain, with despair in his eyes, thinking of the clan that used to laugh and smile. Looking at the sea of corpses and blood in front of him, the young girl's fist slowly clenched and, Old Devil Gu, you devil, the clan nurtured you, and you've even returned the favor. Killing the master ruined the clan. I, Akatsuki, swear that I will not bypass you in this life. I'm gonna grow up, to make you like me, before abandoning you and making you love me to death. But can't get me. I'll make you suffer the pain of loss as well, and it'll hurt like hell. Next moment, Guchinga appeared in front of the young girl. Seeing the suddenly appearing Guchinga, the young girl directly froze in place and looked at Guchinga in dismay. It wasn't just the young girl who froze. After hearing the young girl's words just now, Guchinga was also confused. What kind of strange brainwave is that? Revenge for making me like you, after dumping me? It's very female-oriented. Really? A love story, right? Good. At such a young age, her mind is so vicious. She is the daughter of Chi-Luck without a doubt. You're the one who's going to make me ache? Guchinga looked at the young girl in front of her and asked. Mingyue looked at Guchinga in confusion. I thought you left. When did you come back? Good. She really didn't expect that Guchinga's hallowed true immortal realm. Surprisingly spineless squatting her a foundation stage? What about the bottom line of the true immortal realm? You don't have a bottom line. No. I mean to admire your splendor and look up to your realm. Akatsuki explained eagerly. Survival is in full swing. She witnessed with her own eyes that all those who provoked Guchinga died. Qingfeng was the reason why he hesitated for a few seconds, and without hesitation, he was plucked out of his heart with a sword. Don't look at Guchinga who looked harmless, but she was definitely a murderous god of killing without blinking an eye. Admiration. Admiration. Guchinga looked at the young girl in front of her with some difficulty. Don't lie. But, the sword in Mr. Gu's hand never beheads young girls. Phew. Akatsuki let out a long breath and, just when she thought she was going to survive, immediately after that, Guchinga's eerie voice could be heard again. Although Gu's sword does not kill young girls, Gu has another blade here. What does that mean? Didn't you say you don't kill young girls? You even cheated the foundation stage? Don't play if you can't afford to lose. Barely. In the bright moonlight, Guchinga's hot hand destroyed the flowers, and her long knife stabbed directly into Mingyu's chest. In order to leave no loose ends, Guchinga decided to make up for it. White knives went in and white knives came out, picking Mingyu's brains. White knives go in. Yellow knives come out, and zap Akatsuki's bag. White knives went in and green knives came out, and Mingyu's bitter bile Guchinga didn't let go. Considering it's a women's video, to avoid Akatsuki's heart, stand to the right, or on the soles of your feet. Guchinga solved the problem. Taking the long knife, he made several cuts to Akatsuki's left and right heart, and left and right soles of her feet, because Guchinga had read a female book that the protagonist's heart is standing on the soles of his feet. Subsequently, Guchinga didn't leave and continued to hide and observe for a long time. After determining that there were no leaks in the Straight away, he walked towards the Tao Polarity Palace's treasure trove. Although the small Tao Polar Palace is remote and has limited resources, the underpinnings could not be compared to the righteous sects and ancient empires at the core of the continent. However, the resources in it could also definitely make Guchinga's cultivation path afterward twice as effective. Looking at the dense aura in the treasury, Guchinga's eyes lit up. Nice guy. It's worthy of being the treasure trove of Daoji Palace. That is, throwing a dog into the treasure trove. It won't be long before they all become demon emperors, right? The only pity was that there were only a handful of 100 immortal jades that were useful for the true immortal realm. Just as Guchinga ransacked the treasury, swish, above the sky, a spiritual firework suddenly exploded. The moment she saw the spiritual fireworks, Guchinga's gaze froze. This was the signal of the other disciples of the Tao Polarity Palace signaling for warning as the Tao Polarity Palace held down the middle of the northern realm, releasing psychic fireworks. It would mean that there were other forces striking out against the Tao Polarity Palace. Coming, Guchinga said with a slight frown. At this moment, the sky above Daoji Palace seemed to be shrouded by a black curtain. The entire earth, as if it had turned into hell in this instant. Hundreds of devilish powerhouses wearing black robes with deep and evil breaths appeared in the skies above Daoji Palace. This is Shao Dao Pole Palace? The little Dao Pole Palace has been exterminated. No corpses left? 3 true immortals of the Shao Dao Polarity Palace, and thousands of cultivators survived 5-1. Such tactics are really creepy. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I would never have believed it. There's even such a heartless person under this heaven and earth. Compared to this person's handiwork, our soul-refining sect should be considered a famous and righteous sect, right? Looking at the picture of a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood in front of him that looked like a hell of hell. Spare these demonic powerhouses. It also felt numbness in the scalp and dryness in the mouth. They, the soul-refining sect, are infamous amongst the devil's way, specializing in refining human souls, delve into soul cultivation. But compared to the handful in front of me, the moves they had made in the past to slaughter the clan could not be described as slaughtering the clan at all. Instead, it's like giving away warmth. Sovereign, there seems to be a live one there. Just then, an elder of the soul-refining sect, pointing at the youth with a green face in the sea of corpses and blood, said, "It's him." The moment he saw Guchinga, Luo Xingqian's face showed joy. Good, there's still one alive. Now there's finally someone who can do justice to my soul-refining sect. He was the one who sensed the immortal pressure washing out of the Tao Polarity Palace, bringing the disciples of the soul-refining sect to the Daoji Palace for a cup of tea. As a result, when we arrived here, we didn't do anything, and the people of the Daoji Palace died. It's a good thing there's a survivor. Otherwise, he wouldn't even have a place to talk about it. 012, how can an old man chase an 80-year-old woman when he's menopausal? The soul-refining sect is a demonic sect. Yes, on weekdays, he also likes to make some moves to slaughter the clan. But they slaughtered the clan. Most of them choose some small clans, some immortal cultivation families that. Most of the soul-refining sect's massacres were very principled, only slaughtering the souls of some powerful people. Let the rest go. Only then could they harvest the souls of the powerful in a steady stream. But Daoji Palace isn't a small sect. To defend the northern border, the giant of the righteous path was slaughtered. This karma is too heavy, and the person who struck can no longer be described as cruel. It is simply heartless. Predictably, it wouldn't be long before the news of the Tao Polarity Palace being slaughtered would spread throughout the entire Dragon Phoenix continent. Sessions. The first thing the famous sects on the Dragon Phoenix continent suspected was their soul-refining sect. For no other reason. Just because the soul-refining sect was close to the Tao Polarity Palace, Luo Xingqian even suspected that the other party was not targeting the Tao Polarity Palace, but the soul-refining sect. Why don't you go farther away and slaughter the clan? Does it have to be next door to the soul-refining sect? It's killing me. Luo Xingqian took one step. Behind them, hundreds of demonic paths followed, and they came to Guchinga in great numbers. Upon seeing Guchinga's face, Luo Xingqian froze for a moment. It's him. For Guchinga, Luo Xingqian was no stranger. The Tao Polarity Palace's chief senior disciple, under the tutelage of Yu Qingchang, had already reached the peak of the transition stage at a young age. A character destined to become immortal and witness the way. Guchinga hasn't slaughtered many soul-refining sect disciples. Since ancient times, the good and the evil have not been on opposite sides of the fence. In Guchinga can be said to have perfectly interpreted the words. As the chief senior disciple of the Tao Polarity Palace, Guchinga had no weakness in slaughtering the people of the devil's way. Over the years, there were countless elders of the soul-refining sect who had died at the hands of Guchinga, but Luo Xingqian really didn't have much hatred for Guchinga. There was even some appreciation for Guchinga's character. If it weren't for the difference in their positions, Luo Xingqian felt that he and Guchinga would have been friends for years. Guqinga. This seed deeply sympathizes with what happened to the Dao Polarity Palace. Luo Xingchen. You soul-refining sect massacred my entire Dao Polarity Palace clan. I, Guqinga, am at war with you. Just as Luo Xingchen's words left his mouth, he was interrupted by Guqinga. Luo Xingchen was confused. He just wanted to ask who slaughtered the Daoji Palace, only to have Guqinga point at his nose? Said he was slaughtered by the soul-refining sect. What's the matter with you? I just came to Daoji Palace. My ass is not even hot yet. How can I slaughter Daoji Palace? Though they didn't butcher it themselves. But Guqinga's words also made Luo Xingchen unsure of herself. Luo Xingchen turned his head and asked, "You guys? Who slaughtered the Dao Polarity Palace?" Silence. The whole room is silent. These soul-refining sect elders and protectors who had followed Luo Xingchen were all dumbfounded and froze in place. Nice guy? You're asking us? Which one of us do you think is capable of slaughtering the 3 true immortals of Daoji Palace? That's not the way to lift someone up, is it? Noticing the dumbfounded looks of these subordinates, Luo Xingchen looked at Guqinga once again with embarrassment on his face. Guqinga, we've just come to Daoji Palace, and although I've thought about slaughtering it one day, but we really didn't do this thing. Rice can be eaten indiscriminately, but words cannot be spoken indiscriminately. Did you really see my soul-refining sect kill someone? Luo Xingchen looked at Guqinga nervously and asked Guqinga's next words, but it's a matter of life and death for the soul-refining sect. Aside from your soul-refining sect, who else in the entire northern realm is capable of slaughtering the Dao Polarity Palace? I saw it with my own eyes. The 3 ghosts of their Huang clan striking. Guqinga pointed with her hand, pointing to the 3 white-haired soul-refining sect elders. He said with words, "Me and I ma? Guqinga, don't you spew all over your mouth. When did our 3 brothers slaughter your Daoji Palace's entire clan? Be reasonable in your words. You are a disciple of the righteous path. It's not good to just falsely accuse a good person." Named by Guqinga. The 3 ghosts of the Huang family directly froze. They really didn't expect this little brat to be so shameless. Catch whoever bites you. Ha! Evidence? The corpses of the roaming mountain of my Daoji Palace are the evidence. I personally saw the 3 of you chasing an 80-year-old woman from the Dao Polarity Palace all over the mountain. Your soul-refining sect is waiting to be exterminated. Guqinga said. The 3 ghosts of the Huang clan are all great cultivators of the transitional stage, relying on the fact that the 3 of them were from the same mother and had combined their feats. They hadn't been disgusted by Guqinga much before. Now such a great opportunity. Guqinga naturally wouldn't let the 3 go. Asshole Guqinga. How dare you slander old man. You're lying. When did we chase an 80-year-old woman all over the mountain? Guqinga. Be a man. Don't talk nonsense with your eyes closed, okay? The 3 ghosts of the Huang clan looked at Guqinga angrily. Shameless. Asshole. If the patriarch wasn't still behind them, the 3 of them would have absolutely rushed up and ripped Guqinga's mouth off. Isn't that bullying an honest man? They're just here for a show. You've become a clown. And you're looking for revenge, right? The 3 ghosts of the Huang clan. Give this patriarch an explanation. Luo Xingchen looked at the 3 with a stern gaze. Patriarch. I've been following Patriarch for 1,000 years. Patriarch, it really wasn't us. We were vilified. That Guqinga is being gracious. The 3 ghosts of the Huang clan looked at Luo Xingchen and said, tearlessly, envy? Those present. Who doesn't have a grudge against the Dao Polarity Palace? Why doesn't he, Guqinga, falsely accuse others? Just falsely accuse you. Luo Xingchen continued to ask. Patriarch. Old man is menopausal. How can he chase after an 80-year-old woman? With these words, the soul-refining sect elders and protectors who were present were all forcibly holding back their laughter. Pitifully, he looked at the 3 ghosts of the Huang family. Patriarch, earlier, I witnessed the 3 elders of the Huang family leaving the sect with the soul-refining sect disciples. I don't know where it went. A soul-refining sect elder stepped forward and said. He also saw that Guqinga was 80% bull ****** ting. But here's the thing. Daoji Palace had been exterminated, and Guqinga was the only survivor. And what he said was what he said. We can't kill Guqinga, can we? Only if Guqinga was alive could the soul-refining sect be cleared of suspicion. It was better to die the 3 ghosts of the Huang family than to have the entire soul-refining sect buried with them, right? A dead friend of the road is not a dead friend of the road. Burying soul? How the hell did you slander me? I was ordered by the sovereign to cleanse the Wang family. The Huang clan's great ghost said angrily, pointing at the elder who had spoken out. The 3 ghosts of the Huang clan. You came to massacre my Dao Polarity Palace on Luo Xingchen's orders? Well, you soul-refining sect all deserve to die. Guqinga said with hatred. Me Nima? You're hard of hearing. I said I was ordered by the sovereign to cleanse the Wang family. What business is there with your Daoji Palace? The big ghost of the Huang family broke his defense and shouted. Sovereign, My subordinate saw the 3 elders of the Huang clan chasing an 80-year-old woman from the Daoji palace all over the mountain. My subordinate also saw it, and they seemed to be having a big fight over who came first and who came last. I second the motion. Those elders who were still watching the fire from the other side of the fence saw Guchinga turn the conflict towards the entire soul-refining sect. The 3 ghosts of the Huang family have been reported. They are originally from the Devil's Path, and they are even more familiar with planting this kind of thing. It's a very colorful statement. Ah, are you all out of your ing minds? Talking out of your asses? Have I, the 3 ghosts of the Huang family, violated the laws of heaven to be falsely accused by you like this? 013, you're playing a game of peekaboo here? Who's going to die? Listening to the colorful and false accusations of these former classmates, the faces of the 3 ghosts of the Huang family instantly turned pale and white. One person passes on the falsehood, 100 pass on the truth. Now that's really hard to explain. Sovereign, do you believe me when I say we were wrongly accused? The 3 ghosts of the Huang clan looked at Luo Xingqian apprehensively. Don't ask this seat, ask yourself if you believe it, Luo Xingqian said in a cold voice. The 3 ghosts of the Huang clan's faces suddenly changed. Next moment, the 3 of them transformed into 3 streaks of ghostly light and shot off in 3 directions. It's a dead end right now. Luo Xingqian was a late-stage true immortal existence. They simply couldn't fight and could only run. 1 billion Zun soul streamers. Now, Luo Xingqian's eyes showed disdain as he waved his hand. The surroundings were suddenly dull and dim, as if the black sand was hidden from the sky and the sun and moon were lost. In Luo Xingqian's hand, there was an additional purple soul streamer 3 feet tall, with golden runes on top of it. Throughout the body is illusory. The endless and infinite cries and mournful hisses of the unjust souls echoed at once. One by one, the souls flew out from within the soul streamers, densely spread out between heaven and earth, which had 9 purple and gold souls standing in it. Soul refining. As Luo Xingqian's voice fell, the 9 purple gold souls bloomed with true immortal pressure as they swooped towards the 3 ghosts of the Huang clan. Asterisk. I've been loyal to the soul refining sect, and you've taken out 1 billion soul streamers? Luo Xingqian, aren't you afraid that the sect elders will be chilled, feeling the overwhelming cloud of shadowy souls around them? Watching the 9 violet gold souls rapidly approaching, the 3 ghosts of the Huang clan roared at Luo Xingqian with their eyes wide open. Bastard! Even sacrificing the true immortal souls of the soul-refining sect's successive patriarchs? This is to drive us to extinction. As for that, we're just 3 transitional succession stages. Is it necessary to alarm the true immortal souls of the successive patriarchs? This is to nail us to the soul-refining sect's pillar of shame. In desperation, a flash of madness appeared in the eyes of the 3 ghosts of the Huang clan. Unexpectedly, they looked downward at Guchinga. Yakuza, it's all your fault. The 3 ghosts of the Huang clan turned in a flash of ghostly light and all of them rushed towards Guchinga below. A cold smile surfaced in Guchinga's eyes. The hands on his back were shrouded with dragon and phoenix shadows, and his aura was deep and austere. Before the 3 ghosts of the Huang family could get close to Guchinga, the body was strangely fixed in the void, and an unnameable scowl appeared on his face. A wisp of soul. It was drawn away from the center of the brow and flew towards the soul streamer in Luo Xingqian's hand. Those 9 violet gold souls, in the void, took on a bizarre posture that, in manipulating the power of the soul streamer to plunder its soul. Seeing this scene, a flash of fervor also surfaced in Guchinga's eyes. With this streamer in your hand, you can go anywhere in the world. With the souls of the 3 ghosts of the Huang family being refined, the bodies of the 3 also fell from the air. What are you doing? Stop it. These storage bags are the property of my soul refining sect. Those soul refining sect elders were just about to come and take away the storage bags of the 3 ghosts of the Huang clan. Then he saw Guchinga take a step ahead of him, has taken 2 of them. While they were talking, the 3 transitional stage storage bags were all taken into Guchinga's hands. The 3 ghosts of the Huang family slaughtered my Dao Polarity Palace, and these are the treasures that were snatched from my Dao Polarity Palace. You're saying this is something from the soul refining sect? Guchinga questioned. These elders who wanted to grab the soul refining streamer froze in place. It's obviously the storage bag on the soul refining sect's transitional elder. How did it become the treasure of your Daoji Palace? However, no one really dared to pick up Guchinga's words. Who dares to take it? Guchinga described these storage bags as stolen money in one sentence. Isn't stopping the stolen money to the soul refining sect at this time looking for death? The 3 ghosts of the Huang family are a bloody lesson. This damn. Why does it feel like this Guchinga is even more evil than our soul refining sect? You're not going to tell me anything? That's it. He's not even blushing. Shameless. Enough. Luo Xingqian snapped and looked at Guchinga. Guchinga. In the souls of the 3 ghosts of the Huang family, there is no fact that they slaughtered your Daoji Palace. What is your explanation? Maybe I was wrong. I was scared to death, Guchinga said with a coy smile. Fear. You call that ing scared? You can't point fingers if you're scared. Shameless. Because of a single word from this little thiefly, my soul-refining sect buried 3 transitional succession stage powerhouses. Hearing that, those soul-refining sect elders and protectors around them couldn't help but have their mouths twitch. Looking at Guchinga, she said verbally. It didn't matter if Guchinga looked at it wrong, but don't go back on your word. Just now, they had all spoken aggressively about seeing the 3 ghosts of the Huang clan slaughtering the Daoji palace. Where does turning against them now put them? I'm not telling the patriarch. Did they all just make it up to deceive the patriarch? Boomerang hit itself? I should have kept my mouth shut earlier. Enough! Luo Xingqian snapped, looked at Guchinga and said, Guchinga, now follow this seat to the central state. State to the central state's righteous path as it were that the destruction of Daoji Palace had nothing to do with my soul-refining sect. Statement? Guchinga was wondering just now. Why did the soul-refining sect reason instead of striking when they saw themselves? He had thought that all of the female frequency demon clans were so idiosyncratic. Now that the case is solved. So it's a fear of death. However, I'll prove it to your soul-refining sect. Who'll prove it to me? Guchinga? I just remembered that it was these elders of the soul-refining sect who slaughtered my Dao Polarity Palace. Guchinga smiled coyly and pointed at the few soul-refining sect elders who had cursed the hardest just now. Me Nima? Guchinga, don't point your finger blindly. We just want to massacre the Dao Polarity Palace. But we have to have the strength to do so. I'm only in the ing refined void realm. Refined void realm. The refined void realm slaughtering the Dao Extreme Palace? This is too outrageous. Being pointed at by Guchinga, the several elders directly exploded. Said they massacred the Dao Jie Palace. Isn't that bullying honest people? Ha ha, there's a cycle in the heavens. Letting you falsely accuse our brothers. Now it's your turn, isn't it? All must die. Of the 1 billion venerable souls. Seeing this scene, the souls of the 3 ghosts of the Huang clan directly laughed sarcastically and taunted. They counted on seeing it. If you come here today, one of you will be counted, and none of you will run away. All have to come to the soul refiner to be brothers. What's wrong with the void refining realm? Who doesn't know that your soul refining sect is sinister and cunning? It's not impossible to poison the Daoji Palace beforehand. At the massacre. I just said you guys were involved. I didn't say you were the masterminds. Could it be that you're trying to hide something? Guchinga said, pretending to be thoughtful. Boom. As Guchinga's words fell, a inchi-filled ghostly claw fell from the sky, directly strangling those soul-refining sect elders to death. Luo Xingqian casually put these people's souls into the Zune soul streamer and looked at Guchinga. Can you testify now? He didn't think Guchinga was lying. Guchinga was Yu Qingqing's disciple and held the Dao Polarity Palace in the highest regard. According to taking care of Qing Ji's character, she simply wouldn't joke about that kind of thing. He felt that Guchinga had been stimulated at the time of the overthrow of Daoji Palace, thus becoming delirious. It was understandable why Guchinga looked at anyone as if she had slaughtered the Dao Extreme Palace. He didn't want to tangle with Guchinga much. People like that, they're just nuts. If we dwell on it any longer, and Guchinga bites on the fact that it was he, Luo Xingqian, who slaughtered the Daoji Palace. Luo Xingqian is the one who wants to curse. Wasn't it just a few elders of the transitional, Mahayana, and refined void realms? The soul refining sect could still afford to lose. Wait, I seem to have misremembered just now. It wasn't them who slaughtered the Dao Extreme Palace. It was these people, Guchinga added, pointing to a group of elders on the other side. I'm Nima? That's outrageous. What are you doing playing demotivation here? The King of Hell is calling the shots, isn't he? Who's gonna die? 014, don't play werewolf kill when the sovereign is killing crazy. Are you done? Luo Xingqian frowned and looked at Guchinga and drank. Although the soul refining sect is a large family, losing some elder protectors is nothing. But it can't be this dead, can it? Key, all of these people are still dead in his hands, and people's hearts will be scattered if they keep killing like this. It's almost over. You kill these people first. Seeing that Luo Xingqian was unmoved, Guchinga urged, Patriarch Luo, are you preparing to harbor these people who slaughtered my Dao Extreme Palace? Could it be that they slaughtered the palace because they were influenced by you? Boom. Guchinga didn't finish her sentence. Luo Xingqian directly slapped out a palm, and the elders referred to by Guchinga just now suddenly spilled blood on the spot. The void behind him was trembling slightly. It goes to show that, how much Luo Xingqian was suffocating inside at the moment. He just came to probe the Taoist Extreme Palace, but he didn't realize that he had stirred up a hornet's nest. Don't kill yourself, but it hurts. These elders and protectors were the soul refining sect's underpinnings that he had worked diligently to cultivate. Now it's like leaks. One dead? Who can carry this off? It's okay now, isn't it? Luo Xingqian said in a low voice. I've just thought about it for a while, and I think you guys are right. Those void refining realm elders, How could it possibly slaughter my Dao Extreme Palace? Gu Qingge said. You finally realized. You now know that our soul-refining sect was falsely accused. To cause us to lose so many elders. You really deserve to die. Cut the crap. Quickly follow us to the central state and prove it for the soul-refining sect. Hearing that, those elders hated to slap Gu Qingge to death at the moment. But these thoughts, which they dared not show, he could only coax Gu Qingge to go ahead and prove it for the soul-refining sect. Otherwise, slaughtering thousands of cultivators from the Daoji Palace. Don't say that those Zhenghua Zhengdao won't let them go. It's those devilish sects that are just as unforgiving. Killing is not the end of the line. Aiming for a long-term harvest. This was a common rule set up by the Devil's Way sects. Now that the entire Dao Polarity Palace has been exterminated, it is tantamount to breaking the rules. Smashing the rice bowls of those devils. Will it end well? Take it easy. You guys, just hear me out. Gu Qingge coyly said. Then tell me. Let's talk while we walk, okay? Don't stay here. This mountain of corpses and sea of blood, who wouldn't be scared at the sight of it? Bulking is a small matter. I'm just afraid that other people will misunderstand that it was our soul-refining sect that slaughtered the Dao Extreme Palace. These elders urged as you spoke. Ahem. Gu Qingge lightly coughed twice. The scene fell silent. Since those refined Void Realm can't slaughter the Dao Polarity Palace, the one who can slaughter the Dao Polarity Palace is. Speaking here, Gu Qingge gazed towards the surroundings. Swish. Noticing Gu Qingge's gaze. These soul-refining sect's elders and protectors, one of them counted, directly retreated hundreds of meters. Incredibly scornful, she looked at Gu Qingge. Even some of the ones that were in groups hated to be 8 feet away from each other at the moment. Broken. The little bastard's ready to make false accusations again. He's going to start Hades dotting the I's and crossing the T's again. Out of sight, out of mind. You can't see me. Seeing the reactions of these soul-refining sect elders and protectors around him, Gu Qingge froze directly. The hand that had just lifted halfway up was stuck hard in mid-air. The one who can slaughter my Dao Extreme Palace must be at least at the Mahayana stage. I think he butchered it, Gu Qingge said, pointing at a wrinkled Mahayana stage powerhouse with a deep aura. Old me has just emerged from the soul-refining sect, and you're saying that I'm slaughtering your clan? That Mahayana elder gritted his teeth and looked at Gu Qingge. Don't believe me? Then who am I to prove it for your soul-refining sect? If you want a murderer to prove it, Gu Qingge, can't do it. Gu Qingge looked at Luo Xingqian angrily. Patriarch Luo, are you going to kill or not? Kill, Luo Xingqian roared. And the terrifying pressure of the late true immortal realm came out majestically. It turned into a big blood-colored star and struck out blatantly. Boom! With the fall of this Mahayana powerhouse, there was silence all around. And him, Gu Qingge pointed to another Mahayana elder. Boom! And he, and this one. Thieving eyes are not a good person at first sight. And this one, with his white face, looks like a short timer. Boom! 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 Gu Qingge points to one. Luo Xingqian kills one. In the end of the kill, Luo Xingqian even sacrificed his own demonic weapon, the soul-refining scythe. Like slaughtering chickens and killing dogs, he harvested the lives of these soul-refining sect elders and protectors. Hundreds of soul-refining sect elders protect the law. At this moment, it was actually directly chopped down by 1/3. The powerhouses of the transitional and Mahayana stages were directly killed to the breaking point. Most of those remaining were strong at the God transformation stage and void refining stage. Sovereign, stop killing. If we keep killing, the soul-refining sect will be finished. We're soul-refining sect loyalists. Patriarch, you can't kill us. Looking at the bloody corpses of the soul-refining sect's elders and protectors that were sprawled out in front of him, the rest of these people, all of them felt a chill down their spine. For the first time, they felt that being under the realm was a blessing. Listening to the cries of these remaining elders and protectors, Luo Xingqian's eyes were covered in blood, and his face looked at Gu Qingge with a grimace. Is it over yet? It's over. Don't be so good. I think you're going to kill me. Gu Qingge coyly looked at Luo Xingqian. However, there is another treasure of my Dao Polarity Palace's inheritance that is now in your soul-refining sect. Only if you give me that treasure will I be able to give your soul-refining sect the proof that. Otherwise the rest of the central state wouldn't believe it. Treasures of the legacy. Luo Xingqian froze for a moment. He thought that Gu Qingge was out of her mind, but he didn't realize that this matter was really related to the soul-refining sect. We've slaughtered the Daojia Palace. To still dare to wear the inheritance treasure of the Dao Polarity Palace on one's body is truly foolish. You're afraid people won't know it's you, aren't you? Luo Xingqian has made up his mind. No matter who that inherited treasure is on, he will skin them to the bone, sacrificing the many elders and protectors of the soul-refining sect who fell today. Luo Xingqian turned his head to look, his voice filled with extreme killing intent. Which one of you slaughtered the Dao Polarity Palace and took the inherited treasure? Hearing that, These elders and protectors of the soul refining sect were all feeling chills through their bodies. Who took it? Come forward. I don't know, I didn't take it anyway. Damn. Sovereign is killing crazy. So don't play werewolf kill. These remaining protectors and elders. You look at me. I look at you. Frozen. Not a single person stepped forward. Good. Good. Yes. This patriarch has given you a chance. Luo Xingqian's voice penetrated endless coldness, like the ice of 3 winters. Looking toward Gu Qingge. Where is the Dao Extreme Palace Supreme Treasure? Who's holding it? There. Gu Qingge said, pointing at the huge 3 Zhang soul streamer behind Luo Xingqian. There's nothing here. Luo Xingqian's eyes were suspicious. Why not? It's right behind you. The human immortal streamer of my Daoji palace is right there, cleansing the sky of holy light. Gu Qingge said, in her words, now that you've seen it, go get it yourself. Luo Xingqian said obscurely, it's confirmed. This Gu Qingge has a brain problem. 015, enter my clan's human immortal streamer and become an immortal on the ground. Seek to catch up on reading. Seek collections. Seek votes. Request for comment. Because Gu Qingge had wasted the lives of so many soul refining sect elders and protectors. But it's not a big problem. As long as he's willing to prove it for the soul refining sect. These protectors and elders will not have died in vain tonight. Put yourself in your place. If it was himself, he suffered a drastic change in the clan, and his relatives and fellow disciples were slaughtered. He, Luo Xingqian, didn't necessarily do better than Gu Qingge. Maybe delirious too. Patriarch Luo Atmosphere. I thank you on behalf of all the dead people of Daoji Palace. Thank you for your willingness to return the treasure inherited from my Dao Polarity Palace. Gu Qingge excitedly bowed towards Luo Xingqian. You don't find many good people like that. Slaughtering dozens of meters of soul refining sects Mahayana and transitional stage experts. More than that, I'm willing to add the treasure. Where is this some kind of demonic giant? It's almost like family. In the future, Gu Qingge would be the first to say no to anyone who said that Luo Xingqian was a devilish Taoist. Stop nagging. When you see the inheritance treasure you take it. Luo Xingqian impatiently waved his hand and said, now that he saw Gu Qingge, it was just like eye candy, as if he could see the elders and protectors that he had killed. If he listened to Gu Qingge's babbling any longer, he would be mentally unhinged. See the situation. Gu Qingge didn't nag, either. Taking one step, he crossed straight over Luo Xingqian. In full view of the crowd of soul refining sect elders, he grabbed the illusory soul streamer that was dense in the air with one hand. Swish, the power of the dragon and the phoenix washed out. In an instant, it was to erase all of the many manipulation formations and soul powers on top of the 1 billion Zun soul streamer. Hiss. Everyone was looking at Gu Qingge in a daze. What's going on? No. Why are you touching our 1 billion soul streamers with the treasure of your Daoji palace? Is that something you can touch? Can you afford to pay for the damage? Just as the crowd was confused and dumbfounded. Barely. A mouthful of heart blood spurted out of Luo Xingqian's chest. After seeing the 1 billion Zun soul streamers in Gu Qingge's hands, Luo Xingqian's eyes were filled with shock and killing intent. Gu Qingge, what are you doing taking your human immortal streamer and taking my clan's 1 billion soul streamers? Bring it over. Luo Xingqian held back the killing intent in his heart, his voice cold and full of unquestioning. What's your 1 billion Zun soul streamers? This is my Dao Polarity Palace's inherited treasure. The human immortal streamer. Gu Qingge looked down on the group of soul refining sect elders in front of her, her gaze fixed on Luo Xingqian. Strong tone, making the group of soul refining sect elders present all go into a bit of a trance. Filled with dismay, she looked at Gu Qingge. Asterisk? A human immortal streamer? Little brat, are you tired of living? That's my soul refining sect's greatest treasure, which feeds the generations of patriarchs of my soul refining sect. Everyone in the world knows that the 1 billion exalted soul streamer is my soul refining sect's inherited treasure. Is this thing not for you to get your hands on? You didn't see the black smoke from the cuckoo above that soul streamer? That's all demonic energy. How can it be a human immortal streamer? Quickly hand it over, polluting our clan's most precious treasure. Your death 100 times will not be enough. After being dismayed, these soul refining sect elders verbally attacked Gu Qingge. The curses are very ugly. Originally, Gu Qingge had Patriarch Luo Xingqian covering her, and none of them dared to offend her. But not anymore. Gu Qingge dared to get her hands on 1 billion Zun soul streamers, offending Luo Xingqian. Who the hell cares about you, Gu Qingge? Is this object a human immortal streamer? Can't I recognize it? This object, cuckoo, smokes black, and what it represents is the way of water in my northern realm, where black water is honored. The black smoke emanating from the flag is not demonic energy either. Rather, it is thick with vitality. If you enter my clan's human immortal streamer, you will become an immortal on the ground. You and others slaughtered my clan without saying. Now you still want to hijack my clan's inherited treasure? Guchinga's words were so strong that her gaze looked down on the crowd and questioned. I'm Nima? Kookaburra black smoke. Black water is honored? Still thick with life? This kid could be so full of. If they hadn't seen the events unfold with their own eyes. Maybe it's even true. These soul-refining sect elders present all looked at Guchinga with contempt. They know the boy is evil and has a bad heart. But I didn't expect that he would be so evil as to hit on the idea of a billion Zune soul streamers. Isn't this the inverse Big Dipper? What human immortal streamer? This object is my clan's 1 billion Zune soul streamer. And you're the one who said that the big sky. It's also a billion soul streamers. One of the elders pointed at Guchinga and angrily rebuked him. You dare question me? Since you don't believe me, then come in and see for yourself if this object is a human immortal streamer. Guchinga's gaze flickered as she looked toward the soul-refining sect elder who had rebuked angrily. The human immortal streamer in his hand pointed. Sovereign, save me, being pointed at by the soul-refining streamer. This elder immediately felt a chill through his body. There's an inescapable life and death crisis looming over us. Before he could finish his sentence, the demonic chi on the soul-refining streamer was rolling. Several purple and gold souls erupted from the demonic aura, directly yanking the old man's soul into the human immortal streamer. This scene happened in a flash of lightning. The whole place is dead silent, looking at the scene with disbelief. A billion honored soul streamers. It is the soul-refining sect's greatest treasure, and it bears the soul imprint of the patriarch's late-stage true immortal realm, Luo Xingchen. There's also the soul Dao formations that the soul-refining sect's successive patriarchs have placed on it. In addition to Patriarch Luo Xingchen, no one can manipulate that. They really didn't expect Guchinga to be able to harness the soul-refining sect's 1 billion soul streamers? Sovereign cheated on his wife? Is this Guchinga the illegitimate son of the patriarch? Otherwise, it's hard to explain. Come to think of it, the rest of them couldn't help but turn their gazes towards Luo Xingchen. Guchinga, this patriarch is saying one last thing. This item is my soul-refining sect's greatest treasure, the 1 billion soul streamer. Hand over the soul streamer, or else even if Yu Qingchang is alive, she won't be able to protect you. Luo Xingchen looked at Gu Xingchen and threatened word by word, teeth clenched, eyes filled with horror and regret. Just now, he had suffered a soul backlash and couldn't believe that Guchinga could control a billion soul streamers. As Guchinga drove the soul streamer just now, plundering the souls of the soul-refining sect's elders, it was then that he truly realized, this son, Guchinga, was actually able to master the soul-refining streamer. Luo Xingchen, you said that this object is the soul-refining sect's greatest treasure. What proof do you have? Will it say yes if you call out to it? Guchinga looked at Luo Xingchen with a cold smile. Patriarch, quickly maneuver the soul-refining streamer. Quickly remove the soul-refining streamer. We can't let this son get hold of my soul-refining sect's greatest treasure. Patriarch, this son is evil. He is simply more detestable than us people of the devil's way. Quickly use this to refine him. Those surrounding soul-refining sect elders looked at Luo Xingchen and said, use the soul-refining sect's soul streamer and kill the soul-refining sect's people. It's a shame to be shamelessly turtled up. Isn't that bullying an honest man? Who the hell is the devil's way? Anyway, Guchinga, you're looking for death. Luo Xingchen swept his gaze morosely over those talkative elders. Finally, she looked at Guchinga with eyes wide open and said, he wanted to use the soul-refining streamer to refine Guchinga instead. He's got to be able to maneuver. The soul mark on the soul-refining streamer was erased and the formation was destroyed. Not to mention him. Even the resurrection of the soul-refining streamer ancestor couldn't manipulate it. Luo Xingchen couldn't figure it out. Why would a transitional stage be able to erase his soul imprint? 016, I am a devil. I want the world to be free of devils and no more killing. Luo Xingchen, are you afraid to shout? Then I'll shout. Human immortal streamer. As Guchinga's voice fell, the sky darkened suddenly and the earth set off countless whistling sounds, as if there were countless lonely souls and wild ghosts wailing. Immediately following, an unbelievable scene has arisen. When the 1 billion souls in heaven and earth appeared, they immediately floated around according to a certain pattern, with those 9 violet gold souls as the center. A huge formation was heatedly formed, shrouding the entire Dao Polarity Palace. All of the soul-refining sect's elders were enveloped in the formation. How is this possible? He's actually really able to manipulate a billion soul streamers? Old ancestor, we are latecomers of the soul-refining sect. Old ancestors, you cannot help abuse feeling the monstrous sea-like demonic aura, with the overwhelming killing intent of killing without boundaries. These elders of the void refining realm and the harmonization stage, one by one, as if on pins and needles looking around at the familiar souls crying out. Some of the elders, after recognizing the family elders, even went so far as to grovel and kneel on the spot. Hopefully, it will wake up the elders of the family. Get out of here. Who's your granddaddy? We don't have descendants like you. You don't think highly of the soul-refining streamer yourself, and now you're blaming us for cheering and abusing it, right? We're spirits. Do you know what a spirit is? We're dead. Soul-refining sect's greatest treasure can be snatched away. You guys really deserve it. These old ancestors and the soul-refining streamers, although each one of them can't speak, but that gaze almost wanted to eat these latecomers. They contribute to the soul-refining sect. After death, he willingly enters the soul refiner. These late generations are good. Their own ancestors can't even watch them. They deserve to be destroyed. 1 billion Zun soul streamers. At my command. Luo Xingqian roared, still wanting to continue to manipulate a billion soul streamers. However, no matter how he manipulated it, the billion exalted soul streamer remained unmoved. This can't be. Gu Qingge, you little thief. How could you possibly know how to manipulate a billion soul streamers? What the hell did you do? At this moment, Luo Xingqian finally recognized reality and looked at Gu Qingge with a low growl. Luo Xingqian, can't you see? The offense and defense have changed shape. You massacred my Dao Polarity Palace. Today, I, Gu Qingge, will avenge the clan. Slaughter all the devil Taoists in the world. Gu Qingge said with disdain in her eyes. The entire soul-refining sect. What Gu Qingge was truly afraid of was the 1 billion soul streamers. Now it's the human immortal streamer in hand. He's still doing whatever he wants? Ascension. Gu Qingge coldly shouted and raised her right hand. At that moment, the formation made up of souls boomed and trembled. All the souls, at this moment, united in one voice. The sound was like some kind of incantation. A black aura surged out of the soul's body, strangely condensing there. It turned into a big black hand. This large hand was the same as Gu Qingge's movements at the moment, as if it was Gu Qingge's doppelganger. As Gu Qingge waved her wrist, a white shadow immediately flashed on those remaining soul-refining sect elders and protectors present. These white shadows were the souls of those soul-refining sect's void-refining realm and harmonization stage elders and protectors. Beyond that, a white shadow was also floating out of all the areas of the entire Dao Polarity Palace. These white shadows were densely packed, like snowdrifts, boundless. If you look closely, it was also able to see that amongst these 3 white shadows, there were also 3 purple and gold souls. It's a woman, a pale dragon, and a willow tree. Gu Qingge, you sinful disciple, slaughtering my clan, committing crimes below, you shall not die. Gu Qingge North Sea Dragon Clan will not let you go. Gu Qingge, my lineage of grass fairies in the south border will kill you for the world's wickedness. Damn you, eldest brother, we hate you. You went so far as to slaughter the entire clan. Doesn't your conscience hurt, eldest brother? As these snow-like white shadows surfaced, the souls of the soul-refining sect that were present were all staring at each other in disbelief. Frozen in place as if struck by lightning. They still wanted Gu Qingge to prove it for the soul-refining sect. Didn't realize. It was this guy who slaughtered the Daedaiji Palace. This world is too damn ridiculous. How come the people of the righteous path are even more evil than the devil's path? Swish. The big, black hand fell suddenly, like a mountain tipping. Those white shadows were swept into the true immortal streamer by the big hand. Master, you've fallen into the devil. Disciple sends master into the human immortal streamer today and becomes immortal on the ground. Gu Qingge bellowed. With a shake of the human immortal streamer in his hand, the roiling ghostly souls were withdrawn as much as possible. Gu Qingge, all of this turned out to be your doing. I, Luo Xingqian, kill you. Luo Xingqian's eyes were livid, blood flowing backwards from his 5 senses as he looked insanely at Gu Qingge. The words fell. The late true immortal realm washed out, and soul power tumbled between his hands. It turned into rolling soul flames running towards Gu Qingge. Feeling the soul fire that roams the sky, Gu Qingge executed the heavenly phoenix fist and blasted out with a punch. The roiling true phoenix flame, accompanied by the heavenly phoenix shadow, suppressed towards Luo Xingqian. Boom! Terrifying energy exploded in the firmament. Luo Xingqian was like a kite with broken strings, smashing directly into the towering mountains behind him. The transverse ridge cracked in a horrible fissure. Luo Xingqian stood up with great difficulty, his eyes filled with despair. How is it possible that your strength, Luo Xingqian? This seat has long been at the peak of the true immortal realm. From the beginning to the end, this seat has no intention of sparing your soul-refining sect. Gu Qingge spoke indifferently. True, peak true immortal? Ha ha. Luo Xingqian raised his head to the sky and a mouthful of blood spewed out once again. The moment the whole breath shriveled up, Luo Xingqian's originally lonely and gloomy face actually surfaced with a demented smile. The soul-refining sect is the #1 demonic sect in the world. I, Luo Xingqian, have sworn to be the world's #1 devil. Magic. Devil. I am the devil. I will make the world free of devils and no more killing. Demon. I've become a demon. Luo Xingqian muttered to himself. Sometimes he laughed. Sometimes he was bitter. And sometimes he laughed maniacally at Guqinga. Seeing this scene, Guqinga froze. Guqinga had seen too many deaths in the devil's way. Those killed. Those who had their clans destroyed. Those who had their souls refined. The only one who had never seen a person of the devil's way who had been driven mad. Lies don't hurt people. The truth is the quick sword. Guqinga lamented. He doesn't feel he's done anything wrong. It's just that Luo Xingqian's Dao was too brittle. But he just killed some clan elders by mistake. It's just a matter of losing the clan's 1 billion Zune soul streamers. But it's just knowing you're being lied to. Crazy? Why do you want to be a devil when you've set your mind to have no devil in the world? This Luo Xingqian's Dao heart was contradictory from the beginning to the end. And this was the real reason why he had gone mad. Guqinga. Just the last straw that broke his back. Demon Lord Luo. If you enter my human immortal streamer, you can become an immortal on the ground, and there will be no demons in the world. Guqinga said with a smile as she waved the human immortal streamer in her hand. I can become immortal? I want to become immortal. I want to go in. I want to make the world free of demons. Ha ha, the soul refining sect is #1 in the world, and I, Luo Xingqian, am the world's #1 demon immortal. Luo Xingqian looked at Guqinga and smiled foolishly, walking towards Guqinga with difficulty. Recommendation period. More support. This episode is an overkill, and the back is even more fierce and awesome. Ga kill. Ask for a variety of data to support it. 017, Tai True Immortal. Empress of the Dragon Clan of the North Sea Ning Rubing. This seat, give you one last ride. Guqinga laughed. With his left hand raised, a pale dragon's breath washed out. Guqinga's palm was under the shroud of the Tsanglong's shadow. A dragon scale was actually born from underneath the skin. The fingers were also becoming sharp into the dragon's claws. True dragon claw. Guqinga's voice fell. With his left hand waving down, a terrifying dragon claw presented itself between heaven and earth. The dense dragon's breath was like Jiaoshu twilight snow pouring towards the mountain where Luo Xingqian was. The soul refining sect's corpse has it. The burning remains of the true flame of the Heavenly Phoenix clan were also available. What he was doing now was leaving traces of the North Sea Dragon clan strike. So, those righteous sects in the central state, even if they knew about the news that the Dao Polarity Palace had been overthrown, it would also just point the finger at the soul refining sect, the Heavenly Phoenix clan, and the North Sea Dragon clan, stirring up this heaven and earth. The only way to ascend to the immortal king is chaos. When the time comes, no one could have imagined that he, Guqinga, would be behind all of this. Dragon breath? An angry and gentle voice resounded above the North Sea. Roar! The true dragon whistles. The winds of the North Sea rose up, and a long purple and gold dragon rocked upwards, transforming into a figure in a long red dress that, this person is a snowman, with skin like snow, and a face that is unparalleled. A pair of pale blue eyes radiated outward with an icy coldness, and his silver hair was crystalline, like a fringe. The vertical waist. There is also a pair of red coral-like dragon horns growing above his forehead. Behind it was a tail that glowed with purple and gold phosphorescence. Standing on top of the North Sea, with his feet on the angry waves, an incomparably majestic pressure washed out from his body. This person was the Northern Sea Dragon Clan Empress, who possessed the Tai True Immortal Cultivation Dao. Ning is like ice. Humph. This seed would like to see who is the one who has jeopardized my North Sea Dragon Clan's 1,000-year plan. Ning Rubing's eyebrows were slightly knitted, her eyes showing her fury as she overlooked where the Dao Polarity Palace was and murmured in a low voice. In the middle of the King's Hall in the Dragon Palace, the Dragon Clan elder clearly informed Elder Longtang that his soul lantern was extinguished. At this moment, the Dao Polarity Palace is indeed once again surfacing a dragon breath. So the person with this dragon breath must be the person who spoiled her North Sea Dragon Clan's plan for 1,000 years. Swish! Ning Rubing took one step, his body transforming into a long purple and gold dragon that leapt 10,000 miles in a single bound, running towards where the Dao Polarity Palace was, the ruins of Doji Palace. Feeling the strong power of the 13 true immortal souls in the true immortal streamer, a touch of unstoppable ecstasy surfaced in Guqinga's eyes. In the Battle of Daoji Palace, although the clan was destroyed and Daoji Palace suffered heavy losses, but I am indeed the one who benefits the most. Now I have the dragon and phoenix Dao source in my body, and I master the true spirit laws of the dragon and phoenix clans. There's even 1 billion human immortal streamers with 13 true immortal realm souls and an 8th grade immortal artifact, the Bathing Frost Sword. The sky is the limit to travel to. Guqinga murmured in a low voice. He could already envision his own style of reigning over the world in the future. Yes, as opposed to the male frequency of the world, where there is deceit and plotting every step of the way. He traveled to a female frequency, and a simple scheme is so profitable. It's almost like a descending blow. Sharp writing is no fun? That's because you're not the main character. It's cool to be the protagonist of this refreshing article. Who is the one who knows? Now that I'm a Gu family immortal, the Gu families will has to be gripped before I can do so. Gu Chinga murmured in her heart. His Gu family, the Gu family, was one of the Central State's eldritch families. Even though the Gu family had been in decline for 10,000 years and no immortals had been born, but the everlasting family's depths were absolutely unfathomable. In Gu Chinga's memory, the Gu family mastered an immortal ancient puppetry technique. This art is against the heavens, though the legacy has been broken. However, it was still possible to forge the strongest puppet battle armor under a true immortal. It would be a waste to put this kind of inheritance in the Gu family. It should go to me. Gu Chinga. Buzz. Just as Gu Chinga was preparing to return to the Central State, clouds and mist rolled above the sky, and a terrifying spatial force fell from the sky, blocking off the entire Dioji Palace. Not good. This aura? It's a Tai true immortal? Feeling the terrifying pressure above the dome of the sky, Gu Chinga's face was stunned. I've just finished saying that we can go anywhere in the world, and now I've met a Tai immortal? Playing with me? Roar. Suddenly, a dragon's roar echoed through the heavens. A purple and gold haze light came out from the cleansing, transforming into a woman in a red dress standing proudly between heaven and earth. The North Sea Dragons? Gu Chinga's face suddenly changed. His worst fears had come true. Dragon Phoenix Continent. The Heavenly Phoenix clan and the North Sea Dragon clan could be said to have been feuding with the human race for generations. Whoever looks at him, now encountered the North Sea Dragon tribe Tai true immortal. This dam just crossed to Karma? On the other side, Ning Rubing appeared at the Dao Polarity Palace and saw to the sea of corpses and blood in the Dao Polarity Palace. It was like a scene from Shura Hell afterward. It made even Ning Rubing suck in a breath of cool air. This place is in a terrible state. It was simply unheard of. And I'm afraid that the battlefield between the dragons and the human race is no better. Human? In consternation, Ning Rubing was also noticing Gu Chinga, who was standing by the side. A slight sweep of the light blue eyes was all it took to see through Gu Chinga's realm underpinnings. The peak of the true immortal realm. A demonic aura and a billion soul streamers from the soul refining sect in his hands? How could a human race have a complete dragon and phoenix Dao origin inside them? Hiss. After peering into Gu Chinga's internal realm and qualifications, Ning Rubing froze in place as if she had been struck by lightning. The human race has a weak lifespan and a natural affinity for the great Dao. All the spiritual creatures of heaven and earth work tirelessly to take on the appearance of human beings and to realize the great Dao of heaven and earth. These Ning Rubing was aware of. Strong as she is, at the Tai true immortal realm, one also needed to take human form to sense the great Dao. But even how the human race is pro-avenue, it's also impossible to break through to the peak of the true immortal realm at the age of 20, right? This is outrageous. If the human race were all this strong, then the North Sea Dragon race would have been wiped out a long time ago, and it survived there until now? But now, this scene was indeed truly presented in front of Ning Rubing, 20 years old, at the peak of the true immortal realm. This son's natural talent is broken through the ages. If we let him grow up, he will be a great enemy of my North Sea Dragon clan. Even more outrageous, a perfect dragon and phoenix Dao source was born within a human. This Dao source was the chance of creation that the Heavenly Phoenix clan and the North Sea Dragon clan had gone to great lengths to pursue. Surprisingly, it appeared on a human. There was also that billion Zune soul streamer, which was an item of the Devil's Way, an item of the soul refining sect. The spiritual energy in this person's body was compacted and pure. Observing his appearance and looking at his bones, he should be a righteous person. Why do you hold the Devil's Way treasure? Ning Rubing had stepped into the Tai true immortal realm ever since. There were very few people that he could not see through, and this teenager in front of him was one of them. Who are you? Why is there my dragon clan's aura in my body? Is the mountain of corpses and sea of blood in the Daoji Palace related to you? Long Tongue, the elder of my North Sea Dragon clan, did it die by your hand? Ning Rubing looked at Gu Chinga and asked in a cold voice. Bad. Still really coming at me? Gu Chinga's face changed. As soon as the other man appeared, he was as good as dead. And, now that she heard the other party mention Dragon Tang, Gu Chinga knew that she was afraid that she was in trouble. Elder, you came too late. The Devil's Soul Refining Sect and the Heavenly Phoenix clan joined forces to massacre the Daedaiji Palace, and the entirety of my Daedaiji Palace was wiped out. Elder Longtang treated me like his own son and sacrificed his life to save me so that I could survive. I, Gu Chinga, swear that in this life, I will wipe out all the devils in the world and overthrow the Heavenly Phoenix clan. Avenge Elder Longtang. 018, Human Immortal Streamer. Human Immortal Streamer. I become immortal in the Human Immortal Streamer. Gu Chinga suddenly howled. Tears like rain, and the voice of the. This display of true feelings made Ning Rubing empathize with her, and she couldn't help but have slightly reddened eyes. looking at the traces left behind by the burning Heavenly Phoenix true flame in the field. Ning Rubing's monstrous killing intent towards the Heavenly Phoenix clan was even more impossible to conceal. What a Feng Qing Tian! Disregarding the truce contract between the two clans and cooperating with the human race to bully my North Sea Dragon clan. Do you really think that my North Sea Dragon clan has no one? This seat will surely kill your 10,000 phoenix nest without fail. Ning Rubing's words were so precise that her killing intent was monstrous. Well, Gu Qingge was secretly happy in her heart. If Ning Rubing wasn't still standing here, he definitely had to clap his hands for what he had just performed. This acting is definitely movie star level. What Tai Yi true immortal. What life and death crisis. However, it was a slight trick to defuse the crisis, and waited until Ning Rubing killed 10,000 phoenix nests. He, Gu Qingge, just bailed. Back to the Gu family retreat. Not until you get to Tai. You don't get out of the Middle Kingdom. Roar. Just as Gu Qingge was rejoicing in her heart, a mournful dragon's roar resounded from the human immortal streamer. Not good. Hearing this dragon's roar, Gu Qingge's face changed, and with a shake of the human immortal streamer, the memories of Long Tang's soul in the human immortal streamer instantly erased. Originally, Gu Qingge didn't want to do this. The reason why a true immortal level soul is powerful, it was because of those true immortal techniques and divine abilities in its memory. If the memory is erased, it's just the equivalent of a thicker soul body. Gu Qingge really didn't expect that. Long Tang had been included in the human immortal streamer, but he still dared to disregard the consequences and spoil his own good deed. This dragon has a backbone. You can't stay. Hearing the sound of the dragon's roar, Ning Rubing's killing intent on her face tightened, and she looked at Gu Qingge thoughtfully. 1 billion Zun soul streamers for this seat. Ning Rubing said. What honorable soul streamer? Where is there a soul honoring streamer? Gu Qingge hid the soul streamer behind her back and slowly pulled away from Ning Rubing. Just the one in your hand, Ning Rubing said, pointing at Gu Qingge. Elder, you're looking at it wrong. This is my Tao Polarity Palace's greatest treasure. The human immortal streamer. Gu Qingge shook her head. Are you kidding? How long has he been planning for 1 billion soul streamers? You want me to hand it over with one word? With the soul of a male frequency, he traveled through a female frequency. Not to be aggravated. Human immortal streamer. Ning Rubing frowned slightly. From the moment she appeared just now, she felt that there was something odd about this teenager, but could never find the cause of the oddity. Now, come here. Ning Rubing flexed her fingers and pointed. An ice and snow avenue texture wrapped around Gu Qingge's body, dragging her in front of it, catching the human immortal streamer sent over by Gu Qingge. Swish! Ning Rubing shook the human immortal streamer. Hundreds of millions of souls poured out of the human immortal streamer from the sky, shrouding the sky and the earth. However, these spirits that were just now ghosting and wailing, after sensing the terrifying pressure of the Taiyi true immortal realm within Ning Rubing's body, one stood trembling with fear and trembling. Don't dare show the slightest hint of ghostliness. Ning Rubing found out Long Tang's soul and saw the mute look on his soul. Ning Rubing looked at Gu Qingge, who erased its soul. By the demon cultivator of the soul refining sect, Gu Qingge said, my soul refining sect is invincible in the world. I am the world's first demonic father, so you can follow me to kill the demonic path. Ha ha, I, Luo Xingchen, have become an immortal, human immortal streamer. Human immortal streamer. I become immortal in the human immortal streamer. Just then, an untamed voice echoed in the human immortal streamer. Asterisk asterisk. Luo Xingchen. Gu Qingge's face suddenly changed. He considered everything and erased Long Tang's memory. Only Luo Xingchen, the old sixth, was not expected. Surprisingly, I'm going crazy at this point. The soul refining sect did this? Seeing Luo Xingchen, who had a foolish smile on his face, Ning Rubing looked at Gu Qingge and asked, Elder Long Tang died so tragically. Elder, he was generous for the sake of his disciples and died with the soul refining sect's patriarch. That Luo Xingchen couldn't bear such a result and went straight mad. Gu Qingge said with a sad expression. Swish! Ning Rubing ignored Gu Qingge, putting the roaming souls into the soul streamer again. This seat would like to see how generous Elder Long Tang is. What? Gu Qingge froze for a moment. Didn't understand what Ning Rubing meant by that. Next moment, Ning Rubing waved her wrist, and boundless coldness washed out, covering the entire Dioji Palace in a layer of frost and snow. Between the frost and the snow, it actually transformed into a snowman, perfectly replicating the entire Tao Polarity Palace. Eldest brother, I know that you're in heavenly cultivation and look down on us juniors, but how can you kill someone in the clan? You killed my beloved Taoist brother Yi. Looking at the picture, presenting a scene from the law enforcement hall, Gu Qingge was directly confused. What's going on? You're just a female frequency. What's the point of giving Tai Yi and Xian such a high level of pushiness? All the way back to what's already happened? I reported it. Somebody's hanging. As the images flowed, Guchinga killed Feng Bao. The situation with Long Ao Tian was also presented in front of Guchinga and Ning Rubing once again. You killed it? Ning Rubing looked at Guchinga and asked. Because it was the method of retrospection, she couldn't clearly see the chances within Feng Bao's body. However, he could feel the dragon bloodline in Long Ao Tian's body. They're framing me. I'm a true immortal. I didn't kill anyone. And they're framing me for murder. Would you be able to stand it if it were you? Guchinga asked. Can't bear it. Ning Rubing said. A fellow traveler. What a breath of fresh air in the female genre. Just as Guchinga became elated from the sense of recognition, Ning Rubing's voice sounded again. But you're going a little overboard. Excessive? Good. A Tai true immortal is still reasonable. It's really uncommon. Guchinga, don't deserve my fate. The last thing he's afraid of is reasoning. Although Guchinga didn't agree with Ning Rubing's words, but these words of Ning Rubing, it was definitely good news for Guchinga. The scene changes. These snowmen reproduced the scene where Guchinga fought against the two immortals and slaughtered Longtang and Yu Qingcheng, the elders of my clan. You killed them? Seeing this scene, Ning Rubing's eyes flared with murderous intent as she looked at Guchinga in death. He was the one who struck out at me first. I was forced. The fault of this matter is not mine. The situation at that time, if I didn't make a move, the one who died would be me. At the back, I even avenged Elder Longtang. Guchinga explained. Revenge? This seat would like to see how you will take revenge. Ning Rubing once again turned her gaze to the image traced before her. Guchinga is only a peak true immortal. Life and death were all in her hands at a moment's notice. And she wasn't in a hurry to kill Guchinga. She wanted to see what revenge would be if Guchinga didn't die. However, the next scene directly froze Ning Rubing. She's been practicing for tens of thousands of years. Never before had I seen someone with such a murderous intent. Or to fellow disciples and elders of the same clan. The hand is so hard that it's like a hot hand with no mercy. This son is simply devilish and murderous. If it weren't for Guchinga standing right next to her, Ning Rubing would really think that Guchinga wasn't a human, but a foreign incarnation. 019, this time, when the matter of the clan is slaughtered, the immortal, the devil, and also the heaven are beheaded. He's also the Grand Master of the Daoji Palace. Such things. How on earth did it come down to that? Ning Rubing looked at Guchinga with a scornful gaze. It was the first time that she felt chills from a peak true immortal. You're the Grand Master of the Dao Polarity Palace? Yes. The Dao Polarity Palace has nurtured and taught you. So why did you go on a killing spree against the Dao Polarity Palace? Doing this to you? I was forced. Ning Rubing froze. Forced again? How did you force it? Who can force you? She saw it for what it is. The three true immortals of the Daoji Palace were all slaughtered by you. Who else in the entire Daoji Palace can force you? Elder Wang Tang died in the Dao Polarity Palace. I'll slaughter the Dao Polarity Palace to avenge Elder Wang Tang. Just as Ning Rubing was stunned, Guchinga said, Good. Wang Tang died in Daoji Palace. So you slaughtered Daoji Palace. You're a nice guy. Do I have to thank you? Wang Tang died at your hands. Why don't you even kill yourself? Guchinga's words seem a little rote at first glance, but on second thought, there's not much reasoning. Speaking, the wintry scene before us flowed again, and a wind and snow figure appeared in the surroundings. From the wind and snow villain's bratty and wild look, Ning Rubing knew that this was the soul refining sect's arrival, except for the devil's man-eater. No one else would have looked so untamed and arrogant. But, after seeing the scene that happened next, Ning Rubing's entire body went numb. Unbelievably, he looked at Guchinga. She really couldn't imagine that. How detestable should one person be, to be able to count the entire Devil's Way clan out, driving the Demon Road Patriarch mad. Where is this still a human being? It's simply the devil of devils. She opened her mouth, surprised that she didn't know how to ask. These people of the Devil's Way are trying to harm me based on their numbers, and I'm doing this entirely. Guchinga hadn't even finished speaking. It was when I heard Ning Rubing let out a stern cry. Shut up! What's going on? Got your period? I'm not just killing some devilish people. Do you have to react so strongly? You didn't even react this way when Wang Tang died. Are you from the Dragon Clan or the Demon Clan? I don't think so. The soul refining sect is also a backstabbing set up by your Dragon Clan, isn't it? It's outrageous. A female frequency. A Tai immortal Empress. Don't read poetry, you read the art of war? Instead of falling in love, you're learning to plot and scheme in a male genre? On the other side, Ning Rubing didn't know what was going on in Guchinga's mind. But Ning Rubing knew that, no matter what, this Guchinga should never be allowed to speak in the opening of her mouth. This son is evil. In just a few words, the entire soul refining sect was lulled to death. Even the sect's most precious treasure, the Billion Zune soul streamer, was snubbed. You're at the peak of your powers. Practicing all mouth bars? Just outrageous. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she would never have believed that in the Tao Extreme Palace, which was known as the Righteous Path, there were still such heartless demons. That's right, it's the devil. Being in the capacity of the Tao Polarity Palace's chief senior brother, Yu Qingqing's closed disciple, this Gu Qingge was not the least bit thankful to Daoji Palace. Surprisingly, he also brutally slaughtered his fellow masters. Even the passing soul refining sect was killed. Suffice it to say, from this retrospective memory, anyone who was seen by Gu Qingge died. Not a single one survived. All of this, if it was that Gu Qingge had nothing personal, Ning Rubing would never believe it. Or, maybe it's the 1 in a million doom poison body. Anyone who comes into contact with them will not end well. Come to think of it, it made Ning Rubing's heart incomparably torn. She really didn't expect that such many chances would appear in one person at the same time. Gu Qingge is extremely gifted, and at the age of 20, she's at the peak of true immortality. In time it will surely become the backbone of the human race and the great enemy of the demon beast clan. But on the contrary, Gu Qingge is an Erdnase poison body. There is not the slightest sense of belonging to the human race, and it can be said that they will kill anyone they see. More to the point, within Gu Qingge's body, there was also the dragon and phoenix Tao source that both the North Sea Dragon clan and the Heavenly Phoenix clan had always been pursuing. So many things coming together in one person. Ning Rubing felt like her CPU was about to burn. To kill or not to kill? If we kill it, the Dragon Phoenix Tao source will be gone, and the North Sea Dragon clan will miss the opportunity to rise. If we don't kill it, Gu Qingge was born a human. There's no guarantee that she won't turn against us in the future. Take a shot at the dragons. But on the other hand, Gu Qingge is also a doom poison body and kills people on sight. It was the first time that Ning Rubing had been so hesitant on a human. Gu Qingge, you spoiled my Dragon Clan's 1,000 years of planning and killed my Dragon Clan's elders. Have you ever regretted it? Ning Rubing looked at Gu Qingge with an icy gaze and asked. Having heard what was said, Gu Qingge froze for a moment. He knows, it was now a matter of life and death. And the next words were likely to be a matter of life and death. If I admit I'm wrong now, will it survive by showing allegiance to the dragons? No. This is a female genre, and it can't follow the norm. In the eyes of the female frequency Big Brother, the most unattractive thing to look at is the backstabbing, spineless people. If he'd done that in the male spectrum, he might have been put under a ban as a dragon pawn. Help the dragons rise. But if it's a female frequency, the odds are he'll die if he does. Since you can't go back, you'll go one step further. Come to think of it, Gu Qingge smiled bashfully. Regret? The wind and snow swirl in the palace of the Taoist pole, and true immortals also have immortal bones. Protecting fellow disciples unasked. Heavenly tribulation raining thunder on fellow disciples to blame. The path of immortal cultivation is full of darkness. Who will illuminate the heavens and the earth? Slaughtering the affairs of the clan this day, beheading immortals, demons, and also the heavens. With these words, an aura belonging to the peak of true immortality washed out from around Gu Qingge. The true dragon and the phoenix. It emerged from behind Gu Qingge and mirrored each other. With a shake of the true immortal flag in his hand, 10 trillion souls spread out to surround him. It was like the body of a true devil standing between heaven and earth. Hiss dash. This son's devilishness is monstrous. Seeing this scene, even Ning Rubing was slightly stunned in her heart. A smirk appeared at the corner of his mouth and, it's worthy of being a doom poison body. Such a strong killing nature. She didn't have to worry about Gu Qingge siding with the human race against the dragon race in the future. Ning Rubing pressed out a finger. Ice and snow avenue textures, transformed into avenues chains, binding Gu Qingge in place. Ning Rubing clutched the other end of the chain with one hand and looked at Gu Qingge. The massacre of my Dragon Clan's elders. This emperor will settle the score with you later. Having said that, Ning Rubing took a step out, holding Gu Qingge, and left the Tao Polarity Palace, towards the North Sea Dragon Clan. Flop. The depths of the North Sea are blackened. The waves are majestic and magnificent. Above the windy and snowy North Sea, a dragon's roar echoed through heaven and earth. Ning Rubing led Gu Qingge directly into the deep sea. As it continues to deepen, Gu Qingge saw a magnificent and exquisite hall that stood deep under the sea. Spiritual energy was dense, like a cave. Above the palace, a plaque is forged as onyx hangs. Above the plaque are 4 big, hot gold letters, North Sea Dragon Palace. As Ning Rubing and Gu Qingge appeared, greetings, Empress Sama. Those shrimp soldiers and crab generals who guarded the deep breath around the Dragon Palace shouted respectfully. 020, you cannot love, but please do not hurt. Ning Rubing ignored that. He directly led Gu Qingge into the palace building. Master, this time, have you found the person who destroyed my Dragon Clan's 1,000-year plan? Just entered the palace. Gu Qingge was still worried about her future. A voice as crisp as a lark's was heard. Follow the sound. A young girl with silver hair like a waterfall and muscles like gelatin ran out from the palace. The young girl was about 17 or 18 years old. Eyes like autumn water. Eyebrows like a faraway diaper. All of her body reveals a witty and lovely atmosphere. The young girl's delicate body wrapped in a tight silver-colored sarong appeared delicate and budding. Found it. Ning Ru Bing coldly said. Ha, he's a human race. Didn't you say, Master, that human races are not allowed to enter the Dragon Palace? The young girl looked at Guchinga with a dismayed expression and said, he's different. Ning Ru Bing entered the hall and sat on top of the head of the hall, her gaze icy cold as she looked towards Guchinga in the hall. Not the same. Peak true immortal? So young to be at the peak of true immortality. The young girl looked at Guchinga in shock. Such a qualification should be a pride of the human race, right? Such a person should be killed, or else he will sooner or later become a scourge to my dragon clan. Guchinga looked at the young girl in front of her in shock. What's the problem? Meet and kill? He looks so harmless, but how come he's so evil-minded? Is this still a women's video? It is indeed a human pride, but he cannot be killed. Ning Ru Bing agreed. You can't kill it. What's the point of keeping it if you don't? Master, you're not going to let him stay in the Dragon Palace, are you? The young girl ran to Ning Ru Bing's side and reminded her. Master, haven't you always warned us that the human race is much more cunning, so how can we let him stay? It's better to kill. Good. This seat remembers you. Hearing this young girl try to kill herself several times, a chill also rose in Guchinga's heart. If he doesn't die, sooner or later, I'm going to show this woman why flowers are red. Ning Ru Bing's eyes were thoughtful as she looked at Guchinga and asked, want to die, or want to live? That's a redundant question. I want to live. Guchinga nodded. Who doesn't want to live? It's better to die than to live. 3 days from now, you'll be married to my North Sea Dragon Clan's holy daughter at the Dragon Palace. Join my North Sea Dragon Clan can live. Ning Ru Bing said indifferently. Guchinga has a dragon and phoenix Dao source. In time his accomplishments will be above his own. If the North Sea Dragon Clan wanted to rise, they needed to rely on Guchinga as a shortcut. Guchinga is a human. The only way to tie Guchinga firmly to the interests of the North Sea Dragon Clan was through marriage. This idea hadn't sprung up suddenly for Ning Ru Bing. Back in the days of the Daoji Palace, she had already nourished such thoughts when she saw Guchinga killing people on sight. Master, how can you let my clan's holy daughter marry a human? I don't agree with this, the young girl said, shaking her head. Words. Guchinga froze. Well, the trope is, without a doubt, a female frequency. I can't imagine being at the peak of true immortality and still having an arranged marriage. It's fine to let me become a Taoist couple, but shouldn't I be allowed to meet your Northern Sea holy maiden first? Guchinga asked. You're dreaming. My North Sea Dragon Clan doesn't have a holy maiden at all, the young girl said. Through gritted teeth, the North Sea Dragon Clan is without a holy maiden. This emperor declares that from this day forth, Ning Ran is the holy daughter of the Northern Sea Dragon Clan. Guchinga, Ning Ran is my disciple and possesses the heavenly demon body. Are you satisfied with this marriage? Ning Ru Bing looked at Guchinga and said, Ning Ran, the heavenly demon body. Between Guchinga's low murmurs, a shrill, high-pitched voice rang out in the great hall. Master, I don't agree with this marriage. I won't marry. I don't want to marry a human. The young girl on the side exclaimed in shock and resisted, pointing at Guchinga and saying, I'd marry a cuckoo, but not him. Good. Who did I think my future daughter-in-law was? The feeling is that it's this busty, mean-spirited woman. You're not getting married? I'm not marrying yet. Guchinga looked at Ning Ran with a cold gaze, and if she hadn't been bound by Ning Ru Bing's great Dao texture, he must have directly struck out and skinned this Ning Ran. I won't even marry him if I marry a bastard. What does that mean? It's okay to not love, but please don't hurt. Shut up. This matter has already been decided by this seat, and soon this seat will notify the Demon Region and the other 3 seas of the Dragon Clan. A dual cultivation ceremony will be held for you in the North Sea in 3 days. Ning Ru Bing waved her sleeve and said in a cold voice, Master, disciple, stand down. Ning Ran still wanted to explain, and was directly rebuked angrily by Ning Ru Bing. Yes. Ning Ran swept Guchinga a glance with a burning gaze and exited the great hall with gritted teeth. You've seen my North Sea holy maiden. Is she worthy of you? Ning Ru Bing looked at Guchinga and asked. Match. Got it. Guchinga subconsciously nodded. A parasite. Would he dare to disagree? Swish. As Guchinga's voice fell, a ray of haze shot out from Ning Ru Bing's hand, into Guchinga's body. What is it? Guchinga felt as if there was a dragon's shadow traveling through her body. This is a strand of this seat's ice and snow great Dao origin, left in your body. It can help you realize the ice and snow great Dao. Speaking of which, Ning Ru Bing looked outside the hall. Someone come. Your Majesty. An old turtle of the golden immortal realm walked in from outside the hall. 9,000 years old. Notify the demon realm, and the other 3 sea dragon clans, That Ning Ran is the holy daughter of my North Sea Dragon clan. 3 days later, tie the knot with Guchinga in a dual cultivation ceremony at the North Sea Dragon Palace. Ning Rubing commanded. Yes. The 9,000 years froze in place in shock. Just as 9,000 years was about to leave, Ning Rubing continued. Take him to the eastern palace of the North Sea. Yes. Gu. 9,000 years old looked at Guchinga on the side in shock. Guchinga kindly reminded. What the hell? How did he cultivate to a golden immortal with such severe memory loss? Gu. Young palace master, please come with me. The 9,000 years hesitated for a long time and respectfully shouted. Take Guchinga and leave the great hall. What the hell? Young palace master? Old man. You're recognizing the wrong person, aren't you? Guchinga asked. He was going to marry that saintly girl or something, but Guchinga could remember that. Ning Rubing had sealed himself as the young palace master? Can't go wrong. His Majesty betrothed the holy maiden to you, and now he's even letting you join the Eastern Palace. After your dual cultivation ceremony with the holy maiden is over, you will be the young palace master of my North Sea Dragon Palace. The 9,000 years smiled and said, the virgin, the dual cultivation ceremony? The young lord of the North Sea Dragon Palace? Good. Guchinga thought she was going to die, but she didn't expect to take off? Female frequencies are so much fun. 9,000 years old, right? When the day this young palace master inherits the Dragon Palace of the North Sea, I'll make you the king of sea suppression. Guchinga patted 9,000 years old's shoulder and laughed. The old minister thanks the young palace master for his regard. The 9,000 years responded with a smile. In a few moments, Guchinga came to the East Palace. With the departure of the 9,000, the smile on Guchinga's face instantly tightened. After his mind's inner vision went to check the ice avenue within his body and felt that terrifying coldness, Guchinga's face became more and more ugly. 021 North Sea Dragon Pool, South Sea King, San Long Hegemony, Seek for catch-up reading, Seek for collection, the Great Tao of Origin. This was the power of origin that could only be sensed when one reached a Tai true immortal. The mighty power can be described as destroying the sky and the earth. From the Dao Pole Palace, Guchinga had no power to fight back. He could see how domineering the Great Dao origin was. Although Ning Rubing put into Guchinga's body was just a strand of ice and snow origin. But as long as Guchinga leaves Ning Rubing at a certain distance, this wisp of ice and snow origin would then be agitated, make Guchinga's life worse than death. It appeared to be chance, but in reality, Ning Rubing was using this strand of ice and snow origin to manipulate herself, keeping himself from leaving the Dragon Palace. Unable to break away from the North Sea Dragons, as a pawn of the North Sea Dragon clan, he helped the North Sea Dragon clan rise to power, and that dual cultivator of his, Ning Ran, the heavenly demon body was strong at first glance. But it was also divided in who it was. It's that Ning Ran, a look of boobs and not much intelligence. The better the qualifications of someone like her, the higher the strength, the greater the trouble. If we really become a dual cultivation couple with that Ning Ran, it's an absolute disaster for Guchinga. What's even more odious is that Ning Ran went so far as to say that she wouldn't marry him Guchinga even if she married a king. Good. You'd like to marry an asshole, wouldn't you? If you have the chance, this seat will definitely fulfill your wish. It is said that a gentleman is not good for a dangerous wall, no matter how you look at it. This North Sea Dragon Palace cannot stay. Have to take the opportunity to leave this place. I'm now the fiancé of the holy maiden of the North Sea Dragon clan, the future young palace master. As long as I'm in the North Sea Dragon Palace, no one would dare to stop me wherever I go, right? The corners of Guchinga's mouth rose slightly as she walked out of the Eastern Palace. Young palace master, what are you? Seeing Guchinga walk out, the shrimp soldiers and crab generals who were guarding outside the East Palace said, with astonishment in their eyes. Guchinga froze for a moment when she heard the title of young palace master. Obviously, this would be the work of that 9,000-year-old. It seems that the big pie he drew earlier has taken effect, and the king of Shanghai. Where is the Dragon Palace Treasure Pavilion? Guchinga asked. Dragon Palace, synonymous with treasures, both in the male and female genres. Especially the Dragon Palace's Treasure Pavilion. What with Kaoru Goku's weapon, the sea suppressor bead, and maybe a treasure like the sea heart flame. He is now the future young palace master of the North Sea Dragon Palace, and this young palace master can't be in vain. Dragon Palace, Ice and Snow Hall. There was a dense spiritual spring in the Vermilion and Jasper Hall. The spiritual grass immortal plants were all over, and the dense aura was as sticky as fog enveloping the hall. Ning Rubing sat cross-legged on top of the spirit spring. Frost and snow were like a curtain around them, and the coldness transformed into long gorges and ancient pagodas enveloping their surroundings. Ning Rubing's eyes slowly opened, her azure eyes cleansing out the slightest hint of coldness as she looked towards where the Eastern Palace was. Hidden treasures. Just as well. As long as he doesn't leave the North Sea Dragon Palace, let him do whatever he wants. Ning Rubing's eyes were deep in thought. We should also prepare some gifts for him. Let it feel the goodwill of my North Sea Dragon clan now. Having said that, Ning Rubing walked towards the outside of the hall. Your Majesty. Seeing Ning Rubing walk out, the 9,000 years old who was guarding the outside of the hall was busy arching his hand and said, the double cultivation ceremony between Lord Sacred Maiden and young Palace Master in 3 days has been notified to the demon region and the other dragon races. Very well, take a trip with this seat to the dragon transformation pool. Ning Rubing faintly said. The dragon pool. The 9,000 years complexion was stunned as he looked at Ning Rubing in surprise. Could it be that your Majesty is trying to? After all, he is the young palace master of my North Sea Dragon Palace, and if he is a human body, the other dragon clans and demon domains fear that it will be difficult to convince them. Ning Rubing said. Having heard what was said, the 9,000 years face changed. The dragon pool of the North Sea Dragon Clan was the place where the dragon clan's successive generations of sages buried their corpses. It contains an extremely majestic energy, and the dragons enter the dragon transformation pool when they reach adulthood. Absorbing energy to quench the dragon bones. That kind of energy could not be withstood even by a dragon race that was burdened with dragon bones, not to mention a human race. Although the young palace master was at the peak of true immortality, it was an indisputable fact that the human body was weak. I'm afraid that the young palace master would be turned into blood by the majestic energy in the dragon transformation pool just after entering it. Your Majesty, the young palace master is of the human race. Isn't it too risky to let the young palace master enter the dragon transformation pool? 9,000 years worried. Adventure? The other races may not be able to withstand the energy of the dragon transformation pool, but he can. Ning Rubing said with a light smile. Guqingge is burdened with a dragon and phoenix Tao source. Then you must enter the dragon pool. Acquisition of the dragon sage's dragon bone. Not only that, Guqingge also needed to enter the 10,000 phoenix nest of the heavenly phoenix clan. Withstand the phoenix flame burning to gain the phoenix bone. It was Guqingge's life. Only then could the true power of the dragon and phoenix Tao source transcend the world. Go. After saying that, Ning Rubing took a step out and walked towards the direction of the dragon transformation pool. The 9,000 years followed. North Sea Dragon Palace. With Ning Rant's ordination as the Holy Maiden of the North Sea Dragon Palace. Once the news of the dual cultivation ceremony with the young palace master of the North Sea Dragon Palace was released 3 days later, the entire North Sea Dragon Palace was instantly lively. Although they don't know that. When did the North Sea Dragon Palace have a young palace master? However, the grand ceremony of the Sacred Maiden and the young palace master's dual cultivation was definitely a spectacle that had not been seen in the North Sea Dragon Palace for 10,000 years. Sessions. It will surely be proclaimed by the 4 seas, and congratulated by the 8 wastes. The entire North Sea Dragon Palace, from the dragon bloodline down to the Dragon Palace guards, all of them were preparing for the double cultivation ceremony 3 days later. I'm not marrying. It would be better for me to marry a human than for me to die. In the Dragon Lady's Pavilion, a sharp, angry voice echoed through the Dragon Lady's Pavilion. Holy Maiden, this is an order from His Majesty. Now that the entire North Sea Dragon Palace is preparing for the Sacred Maiden and young palace master's dual cultivation ceremony, it's better for you not to resist. Beside him, Ning Rant's maid, Ching Karp, discouraged him. What do you mean? Resist? I'm a member of the North Sea Dragon Clan, and I'm going to be asked to marry a human. Is there any justice left? This holy maiden is going to die, but she won't marry him. Never, Ning Rant said through gritted teeth. If the holy maiden really doesn't want to marry, there is no way out? Kiss you whispered. What's the solution? Quickly, Ning urged. Holy Maiden. The South Sea King of the South Sea Dragon Clan has always admired Holy Maiden. If the King of the South Sea knew that the Holy Maiden was going to hold a double ceremony and that she was going to marry a human being, the South Sea King will inevitably go after that human race. Let that human race know what to do. Green Carp whispered. The King of the South Seas. Hearing the South Sea King, a flash of light flashed in Ning Rant's eyes. The King of the South Sea is equipped with the Tsunlong hegemony body. In just a few hundred years, he had already reached the peak cultivation of the true immortal realm. Known as the future bearer of the South Sea Dragon Palace, it is a heavenly pride that does not come out of the world. Humph, how does that human compare to the South Sea King? Wanting me, Ning Ran, to marry him. Go daydream about him. Saying that, Ning Ran hooked a finger at Chingkarp and whispered, you take a trip to the South Seas, South Sea Dragon Palace, bearing Dragon Hall. No, Ningran dash. A hoarse and mournful dragon roar vibrated out from the hegemonic Dragon Hall. What's going on with the South Sea King? Ning Ran of the North Sea Dragon Palace has been ordained as a holy maiden to marry some young palace master of the North Sea. Our Sea King is grieving. Alas, the King of the South Sea and Ningran of the North Sea, but a pair of wallflowers made by a heavenly spouse. It's so heavenly. Outside the hall of the bearing dragon, the shrimp soldiers and crab generals guarding the sides, listening to the bursts of howling sounds echoing in the temple. There was a lot of eye rolling. 022, Your Highness. I know you are sad, but don't be sad yet. A South Sea Dragon Armor Guard commander, come into the hegemonic dragon hall. Seeing the South Sea King, who stood in the garden looking sad and hissing up to the sky, he busily opened his mouth and said, Your Highness, you are equipped with the Tsunglong hegemony body. You are the hope for the future of the South Sea. The king is so chagrined, and I don't know what's wrong with that. All of a sudden, he turned into a sniveling fool, with no trace of the appearance of the person who carries the South Sea Dragon clan. Mordecai also didn't expect that the North Sea Dragon Emperor she would betroth the holy maiden to that young palace master. The commander's words were just in mid-sentence. The king of the South Sea gave a furious cry, and the dragon's roar cleansed a fist smashed the bearing dragon hall's load-bearing pillar. Don't mention him, Lord South Sea King. Your hand is bleeding? See the situation. The commander-in-chief looked alarmed and dissuaded Your Highness, I know you are sad, but don't be sad yet. My name Grand Dash. You don't understand. I'm the king of the South Seas, and I'm watching the woman I love fall into the arms of another. It's a feeling you wouldn't understand. The king of the South Seas was heartbroken. Your Highness, just now, the Northern Sea Holy Maiden's maid, Ching Karp, came to find the last general. What did she say? But you want the king to take her and elope? Not waiting for the commander to finish, the South Sea King directly interrupted and said, Almost. What the Holy Maiden of the North Sea means is, the young palace master handpicked by the Dragon Emperor of the North Sea is a human. Human? Fine. A mere human race. How dare you come to the Dragon Clan to steal this king's woman? How outrageous. The South Sea King's expression was stunned as his killing intent washed out. Oolong, the last general is here. The commander beside him answered. Take the South Sea Dragon armor guards and follow this king to the North Sea Dragon Palace. This king will personally meet that human race and see how much guts he has to steal a woman from this king. Your Highness, to be precise, Saintess Ningran is a female dragon. Yuria corrected. Right, Ningran is a female dragon. She's this king's female dragon. No one can snatch her away. The South Sea King droned in a deep voice, striding out of the hegemonic dragon hall, leading a group of South Sea Dragon armor guards, towards the Dragon Palace in the North Sea. North Sea, Hidden Treasure Pavilion, Junhai Ding, a top-grade spiritual treasure, capable of holding rivers and lakes, water overflowing for thousands of miles, not even immortal. Garbage, 10,000 scale armor, a 9th-grade immortal weapon of the gold system, taken from the reverse scales of the 10,000 dragons. It can withstand a single blow from a golden immortal. Summon the chi of the 10,000 dragons for your own use. TSK, 10,000 scale armor. Good stuff. Looking at the silver armor in front of her that cleansed the dragon's chi and shone with a burning light, Guchinga's eyes lit up, just about ready to take this armor. Buzz. A spatial force washed out, isolating Guchinga's outstretched hand. Ha! Not to fetch? Isn't it hooliganism to leave it here to be seen and not taken? Guchinga frowned slightly, invoking the dragon and phoenix Tao source within his body. The power of the true dragon and heavenly phoenix washed out from around Guchinga. Boom! As Guchinga slapped her palm out, the entire treasure pavilion was shaking, and the spatial barrier in front of it was always as solid as a rock. Young Palace Master, this object has been reinforced by the Lord Dragon Emperor himself, and had it not been for the Lord Dragon Emperor's personal presence, no one can take it away. You'd better go and see the other treasures. Feeling the violent tremor coming from the hidden treasure pavilion, the old turtle guarding the treasure pavilion also walked in and pulled Guchinga to dissuade him. Ning Rubing put it there herself? I see. Guchinga nodded. By the time the old turtle walked out of the hidden treasure pavilion, his mind was flowing. Since Ning Rubing put it there, I wonder if this will work. Between thoughts, Guchinga invoked the strand of ice and snow origin that Ning Rubing had put into her body. Ning Rubing is a Tai-E true immortal. If this approach didn't work, this 10,000 scale armor, Guchinga could only take it later. Ha! Useful? As the ice and snow origin washed out, Guchinga detected that the protective barrier around the 10,000 scale armor suddenly rippled. Swish! Guchinga's eyes and hands were quick. The 10,000 scale armor was directly taken out, caressing the icy jade-like scales on it, feeling the dense dragon chi in it. The corners of Guchinga's mouth rose slightly. This thing, it's mine. Put away the 10,000 scale armor. Guchinga continued to tour around the treasure pavilion. This is blood jade coral? It's an 8th grade treasure medicine for quenching the flesh? Take it away. Take it away. The seal of Haiyan River Ching, the treasure that governs the 4 seas. Why is it also placed here? Is the Dragon Palace out of stuff? A map of the 4 seas? the thing that measures the 4 seas. Take it away. Take it away. With this, you won't be afraid of getting lost if you leave the North Sea Dragon Palace. Wait, could this be 9-leaf juxtaposed lotus? Soon, Guchinga was attracted by a 9-leaf green lotus at the end of the treasure pavilion. The green lotus was surrounded by a dense life essence. It's like rain, fog, snow and frost. It makes the whole hidden treasure pavilion is full of vitality. 9-leaf juxtaposed lotus. That's the legendary immortality pill. Rumor has it that this item can raise the dead and turn them into white bones. And having this item is like having a second life. Fine. Worthy of being the North Sea Dragon Palace. It even has immortality pills. Guchinga was pleasantly surprised. Just about to take the immortality pill. It was to perceive a spatial barrier similar to the previous 10,000 scale armory merge. Buzz. As Guchinga invoked the ice and snow origin within her body, the immortality pill was directly taken by Guchinga. Swallowed in a moment. The immortality pill was no ordinary, and it was extremely precious to even Taiyi true immortal powerhouses. If Ningru Bing hadn't ingested the ice and snow origin inside him, he could not get this item at all. Guchinga doesn't want to eat early. Afterwards, after being forced by Ningru Bing to hand over the immortality pill, with the 9-leaf juxtaposition lotus entering the body, Guchinga felt a stirring pound of life essence wandering within her body, moisturize into the limbs and bones without a trace. Guchinga was not surprised by this. Even though the 9-leaf juxtaposition lotus was an immortality medicine, its efficacy was also in treating injuries. Only when it encounters a life and death crisis will it show its true power. Just as Guchinga was about to leave the treasure pavilion, attention was drawn to a blue flame placed in the corner. Asterisk. Guchinga froze, approaching and observing for a moment. The surprise in his eyes could no longer be concealed. The flames are blue in color. Like clear seawater, it slowly spread out, with faint ripples, like water waves. Sea heart flame? Feeling the terrifying temperature in the flames, Guchinga said with a dismayed expression. He was genuinely surprised that, in this female frequency, there was actually a sea heart flame as well. I have the heavenly phoenix true flame in my body, and now I'm adding the sea heart flame to it. Wouldn't you be able to cast the Buddha's Fury Fire Lotus? In the middle of her thoughts, Guchinga directly took away the sea heart flame. Satisfied, he left the hidden treasure. The treasure was also taken. The immortality pill has also been eaten. So I have to find a chance to leave the North Sea Dragon Palace, Guchinga murmured in a low voice. He could imagine what Ningru Bing's expression would be when she saw the scene of the ransacking of the treasure pavilion. If you don't leave now, it's really no different from waiting for death. Ningru Bing is a Taiyi true immortal, and has the ice and snow avenue in her own body, so she wants to leave the North Sea Dragon Palace. We must wait until Ningru Bing has no time to care. Otherwise, with Ningru Bing's tactics, one's own absolute will not be able to go very far. You're the young palace master of the North Sea Dragon Palace? Suddenly, an incomparably bratty and arrogant voice echoed out.